Hello and welcome to the GPVWC Supercup here in Shanghai for the second double round of the season. And this is going to be very exciting after a very tight last double round in Australia. I am going to take you through this race with Joshua Anderson on my side, and I'm kacper.
Well, if you think Joshua Anderson's here, you've got another thing coming.
Sorry, Joshua Jones. Yeah. Oh gosh, too many Joshuas.
That's fine. You're too used to that. Yes, I'm here as well to talk you through the action on a series which I really love, very close one, and I'm excited to see how it goes today.
Absolutely, and we're extremely sorry for being a bit late. We've had some technical difficulties with our stream, with our streaming a little bit at the start here, and that's why we're here with about 4 minutes to go of qualifying. And what a qualifying session this is! It is absolutely super tight up front, and I think we haven't even seen the end of it from a couple drivers, especially Stefan Rult, who's only down in fourth after being fastest in practice session beforehand, and with a faster time that it is currently in provisional pole.
Yeah, we saw the Scuderia Brasilia guys being very, very quick last time out. They're currently topping the Constructors' Championship. Winnick probably would have got a very good result, probably a podium in race one last time out, had he not had some sort of issue which dropped him out of the race. And he recovered to 8th position in race two, although his teammate, of course, Stefan Rult, went on to take the win in race one. And that's definitely put this team in a very good position for the championship, although Rult currently in 4th position in the session.
Yes, and both drivers have been showing incredible pace in the first double round and here in Shanghai. And to be honest, I'm actually surprised to see Stefan in 4th place. But it is super tight up front with Maciej Winnick leading currently in the qualifying session by just 82 thousandths of a second from Johan Lindberg. And it's absolutely fantastic. Currently, the top 11 drivers are within a second. So this is all really, really tight. And we seem to nearly have groups of drivers now kind of clumping up. For example, 1st to 6th place are within 4/10 of a second, then with a little bit of a gap. And then we just have this massive gaggle of drivers where just a small improvement of maybe 1/200th of a second could jump you up 1, 2, maybe 3 places.
There are many drivers who could jump up many places here. We've still got all to play for in this qualifying session. A couple of drivers now going out for one final flying lap. I can see Johan Lindberg, who's currently 2nd, emerging from the pits with just over 2 minutes remaining. So that's going to be one more flying lap for him. And there's a couple of other guys who could fly up the order a couple of places as well. I'm looking for Osvaldo Angeloni to exit the pits as well sometime soon, because he is currently 2nd in the championship but 5th in the session. He is one driver I'm sure can go quicker, and there are a couple more in the area that are fighting with him in terms of points in the championship. The standings at the moment go Ruhr, Angeloni, Kasdorp, Brewer, Schroten. Any of those 5 guys could take good points here today, as can a load of other drivers. Bastian Peister's a real dark horse, I was saying beforehand. And there are certainly some drivers who we should have seen more from last time out, but they were taken out by some sort of glitch or accident or something along those lines. Jack Mayer, 5th in race 1, DNF'd in race 2. Maciej Winnick put his car right at the front of the order in qualifying and then finished right at the back after a couple of incidents in race 1. And then you've got other drivers who we expected more from, like Johan Lindberg as well. There's certainly more pace to be gained from some of these drivers and more points to tumble.
Absolutely, and from what I'm seeing at the moment, Maciej Winnick is going very slowly. I think he's just letting himself have a little bit of a gap, and drivers are, of course, preparing for the final flying lap, and it's going to be fascinating as well. I'm seeing everybody. There are a couple of drivers who are on harder compounds of tires, which is interesting because one of the drivers I'm seeing that is on a harder compound of tires is actually quite high up. It's Yuri Kasdorp. He's currently in 8th place, and if that fastest lap was on a harder tire, this could mean that he could have possibly a slight upper hand over some drivers. Although he will have a worse pace right of the line, so it's going to be very interesting to watch that driver if he actually is going to be starting on a harder tire.
Another driver who might well be is Osvaldo Angeloni. I'm looking at RaceView, and he's registered as having set his lap on the harder tyre. And Ben Supanek, who's also high up the field as well. I know that this isn't entirely reliable a lot of the time, but still, that's the differing strategy. Of course, strategy in this series is that you have to start the race on the tyres that you qualify on, but you don't have to stay on that tyre for the whole of the race. In fact, you can't, because there's a mandatory pit stop at some point in the race where you have to change onto the other compounded tyre. So you'll see some drivers starting off on the harder tyre, going for a longer stint, and then pitting for the softer one, which is quicker but lasts for a shorter period of time. And you'll see other drivers doing it right the other way around. Daniel Brewer puts his car to the top of the order. Quick lap from Daniel Brewer. It's a 1:39.197, but Johan Lindberg is charging. So it's a battle at the front of the order between the Scuderia Clay Gearly car and the YTF1 car, both separated by Maciej Winnick at the moment, who is currently second on the grid and is in the pit, so can't go any faster. Also watch Stefan Ruhl, who sets a session best in the second sector. Ruhl puts his car to the top of the order. Very good lap. Now watch Johan Lindberg. He's in the final sector. What can Lindberg do about demoting Ruhl at the top of the order? He doesn't do it. So Stefan Ruhl takes pole position, I believe, for this race. Yes, because I don't think anyone is actually on a quicker lap, anyone notable, and I believe that is pole position for the ex-Super League driver Stefan Ruhl.
That very much looks like it at this point, and that was an amazingly fast lap. This is the fastest lap we've seen so far out of anybody this weekend. Essentially, I think the fastest lap I've seen so far was in practice by Stefan Ruhl himself. It was just about 1/10 slower than this. This was an amazing lap. And I feel, and from what I've seen, Maciej has failed on his final fast lap, has actually spun the car. So that's why he was prematurely in the pits. And Daniel Brewer, a great showing from Daniel to take what looks like to be second place in the qualifying in the second qualifying of the season. And there are some, again, as you mentioned, some even Osvaldo Angelone. This is going to be fascinating considering he's so high up. And I am so happy to see that drivers are actually deciding to use different tire strategies to start the race, because this was lacking from last season. And now it looks like this could be a viable option. And this could provide a lot of entertainment in the race. And as you said, there's of course a mandatory pit stop in the first race. This will be a feature race. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. So the races will be as follows. The first race is going to be 33 laps. It's going to be the feature race. Mandatory pit stop, as mentioned, with a change of tires to the other compound. So you have to use your harder and your softer compound. And then afterwards, there's a reverse grid for the top 6 to 10 drivers picked randomly. And at this point, they have to do a sprint race of 19 laps. So this is how our races look. And I think that this could be fascinating. And at this point, it looks like it is going to be interesting from a point of view of if Stefan can actually run away.
Well, you never see, or very rarely see, drivers running away with it in any sort of GPVWC series, especially Supercup. They call the Supercup the most exciting of the three. I've heard several people saying that. And to be honest, it's certainly, well, I don't really have favorites of the three series. They're all very good for different reasons. But going through the grid order now, we have Stefan Ruhl on pole, followed by Daniel Brewer. Maciej Winnick makes it 2 Scuderia Brasilia cars in the top 3. So a very good qualifying for Scuderia Brasilia. Johan Lindberg lines up 4th. Matthew Allington was just talking about how he was impressed with YTF1's qualifying pace today, and with Lindberg putting his car in 4th position and on the 2nd row of the grid, that seems to definitely back that up. Jack Mayer is 5th. He turned a year older 2 days ago, so happy birthday to Jack. Roy Schroten is 6th, followed by Osvaldo Angeloni, Patrick Gerber, Matthew Marquardt, Yuri Kazdorp, Ben Supanek, Naranjan Kumar, Bastian Paisler, Bruno Sousa Ferreira, Antonio Fialanovic, and then it's Kreis, Downard, Tapper, Batalla, Quint, Fuller, Oscar, Tuamala, Helpap, Ruder, Bell, De Vries, and McCready. And that's the 28 cars that are going to take the start here for race 1.
Well, Yes, except it's not going to be that order, is it? We have quite a few drivers with penalties, and I have just seen.
I was about to say, yeah.
Of course, Stefan has shown the fastest pace of anybody in the qualifying. However, he will be starting from 6th place since he does have a 5-place grid penalty. So this is going to be very interesting. And if he can get through, we have seen that he is the fastest in qualifying, but that does not always translate to the race pace. However, from what he's shown this season, or in the first races of this season, it looks like he could get up there. However, I think it would be a good idea to mention as well that I will be looking at the live chat from the SimNews.TV live stream. So if you want to mention anything to me, if you want to comment on anything, I may check. I will be reading that out once in a while and checking it out at SimNews.TV live stream. So on YouTube. So please feel free to comment away.
Well, I tell you what I've just spotted from the comments. It's that Stefan Ruhl is actually one of the drivers with a penalty. It's not a back of the grid penalty. It's a 5-slot grid penalty.
Yes.
And that means that Ruhl will not take the pole position here. It was a good lap in quali, but sadly, due to an incident last time out, avoidable contact is registered as here. He's not going to be starting from pole. I don't think that Daniel Brewer has a penalty, does he? So that might well put Daniel Brewer on pole position. I think it does, yeah.
So so I think it would be a good idea to go through the penalties, considering there's quite a few of them. Just from the last race, I think most of the drivers are here. I am not entirely. Yes, I'm pretty sure that all of them are here. So all of the back of the grid demotions at the very least are Nirnjar Kumar or Nirnjar. I can't get his name right. I'm sorry.
It's either Naranjan or Naranjan or Naranhan. I don't know how they do it in India, actually, the J.
Not entirely sure either, to be honest. But Yuri Kastorp also has a back of the grid. Osvaldo Angelones is not going to be starting higher up as I would have hoped for. I unluckily forgot that he does have a back of the grid penalty. Dawi Tapper, Jack Mayer as well. Unluckily, a couple days after his birthday, he does have a back of the grid after a great qualifying, to be honest. Jared Batalla also has a back of the grid. Mikael Tuomala has a back of the grid. Jean-Pierre Helpap also has a back of the grid. Ben Zupanek, Mike Bell, and Garrett DeVries all also have a back of the grid. So quite a few drivers, 11 in total, having back of the grids, and all of them back here for this race. So it's nearly like as if they fought for their own little starting grid, just all by themselves.
Yeah, I was saying that yesterday with the Formula Challenge race, where we got even more, many more back of the grid penalties than that. And tomorrow in the Super League race, we've got several as well. I like the way the DC, being the disciplinary committee, is doing this. I like the way that they're not just doing the easy option and saying that because so many people are disobeying track limits in quali, they're not going to judge them and that it restricts real racing or any of that nonsense. I think that is definitely not the way to go about it. And I like the way that they're being harsh about it, because that is the way to stop it from happening more.
Yes, I'm just looking through just things right here. But yes, you're definitely right. It is a way to stop people from doing it, because if you know if you can get an advantage from not cutting a track for the next race, you kind of will have it in the back of your mind that you definitely don't want to cut it, because even though everybody gets a penalty, you may be the one not to get it. And at that point, you'll be the one that's going to benefit out of it all. And of course, that's something that every driver wants. And, we've had some really close calls in terms of the back of the grids. The back of the grids are mostly for cuts and qualifying, as far as I can tell. Just four wheels off the track, behind, over the white lines defining the circuit, the width of the circuit. So, yes, you will just have to watch yourself a little bit. Maybe lose that 1/10 of a second over a lap, but then not lose maybe 10, 15 spots in the next race for the start.
Well, hopefully we didn't see too many penalties from that session we've just seen. Yeah, because of course it's all right saying that those laps at the front of the field were blistering and so forth. But if they did it by putting their car off the road, then they will, of course, hamper their qualifying sessions for the next race, which is at Baku, of course. And Baku is a difficult track to overtake at, so that might well be an even bigger disadvantage than starting at the back for this race is. Well, we'll have to see. So hopefully there weren't too many cuts. The race director will go over the footage of each qualifying lap after the event and judge for himself.
So all the drivers are already set for their positions by our race director. We are about to go to gridding, so this is going to be very interesting to see. But yes, we have had a bit of a comment from Mike Bell as well on the server, how if he's already winning because he hasn't actually been moved by his back of the grid since he was already 26. So no, not quite, but it is definitely the least loss of a position that you can find.
Tell you what, Mike, you're probably about you're probably about 12th or 13th actually, so that's really not a bad position.
No. So so realistically, who do you think is going to win the race after seeing the qualifying and after seeing the penalties?
Oh, do you mean who am I going to curse today? Right.
Yes.
Well, I think that one of the Scuderia Brasilia cars is both of the Scuderia Brasilia cars are of course going to be strong, very strong indeed. And with Maciej Winnick, I don't believe getting a penalty. He's certainly going to be one to look out for. And of course, you can't overlook the pole sitter as well, because of course Daniel Brewer was the quickest lap aside from Stefan Ruhl. He's going to be starting right near the back of the field. So of course he's certainly got the pace we've seen. So there's a couple of drivers who could take it. I know I'm not giving you a straight answer. It's mainly because it's going to be my fault if something goes wrong with them. But we'll see. We'll see.
I honestly think that it's going to be Winnick. He's starting second and he's very fast. But you cannot count Brewer out or Ruhl. You're right. But no, I think it's going to be fascinating. Also, just a couple things. I'm hearing some things about the brakes, which is going to be very interesting. Apparently, even at max blanking or basically maximum cooling they can have, the brakes are already overheating. And we've seen some failures this season. I'm not entirely sure if in Supercup now. I can't remember fully. But I know we have seen one in Super League, if I recall correctly, at the very least, 2 weeks ago. So if we see brake failures, this could be very interesting, but also very devastating to a driver because it usually happens near the end of the race.
Oh, I hope not. The bad thing about brake failures is that it doesn't always just affect you. Of course, if you miss your braking or your brakes fail and you go into the back of someone else, that can take out several people or ruin several people's races. And that is something that, of course, we should never see.
Yes, hopefully not. But of course, it can happen, and it is a possibility, and it's something that drivers have been talking about right before the race. So
okay, I'm being told briefly that we will get the visual side of the stream up soon, but it will be a little while. So there's the first possibly 1 or 2 laps of the race are probably going to be done without any footage. We are trying the best we can to get this done, but we're having some real technical difficulties at the start here. That's why you missed the visual side of qualifying, but hopefully we will get it sorted out as soon as we can.
Basically, we were turning into radio commentators without any experience or expertise in this. So,
welcome to Radio GPVWC.
Yes, and Radio Sim News. So as the drivers are setting up on the grid now, we're off to the formation lap, and our starting order is Daniel Brewer starting from pole position after finishing qualifying in second, but with penalty for Stefan Ruhl. He's taking the pole after really being fast in last race as well. So this could be look good. Maciej Winnick, also very fast driver, in second place for Scuderia Brasilia, YTF1 driver Johan Lindberg in 3rd place. 4th place for Roy Schroten, with 5th place for Stefan Rult after having 5-place grid demotion after an incident in the previous race. Patrick Gerber in 6th place, with 7th place starter of Matthew Marquardt, 8th of Bastian Peisler, 9th of Bruno Sousa Ferreira, Antonio Hradianovic starting in 10th with 11th for Patrick Kraus, 12th for Josh Downard, 13th for Mark Fuller, 14th for Fabian Ruda, 15th for Adam Osger, 16th for Stefan McCready, 17th for Mike Fint, 18th for Jack Mayer, 19th for Osvaldo Angelone, 20th for Nyanyar Kumar, Yuri Kastorp starting 21st, Dawi Tapper in 22nd, Jared Batala in 23rd, 24th for Jean-Pierre Helpap, the German, aptly named, Ben Zupanek in 25th, 26th for Mike Bell, 27th for Garrett De Vries, and 28th for Michael Twomala, and that is an entire 28-place grid, which is insane. And what has happened, Joshua?
Well, there were a couple of incidents on the formation lap there. I saw that Mike Quint stopped by the side of the road. He's got going again now, but obviously there was some sort of issue involving his car. It appeared to still have power, but he stopped by the side of the road. That could have been to sort out some sort of setting or something like that. Also, Bruno Sousa Ferreira actually had an off, drove straight over the grass on the exit of the first hairpin. So a couple of people not exactly getting the formation lap right, and that's certainly not a good sign. But whatever the case, everyone's still running, and we're lining up on the grid.
As crazy as that is, that will be the first race of the season to have issues on the formation lap. We've had formation lap issues already in the first race of the season. However, it was a slightly different conditions, and hopefully all the drivers are going to end up without any significant damage and going to start it from the grid slots assigned to them. As the drivers are lining up and we're nearly ready to go, we will have to unluckily essentially radio commentate the first couple laps and the start. So bear with us if there's not enough information going, but it is unluckily the state of affairs right now. However, we're about, I think we have most drivers now on their grid slots, and we're just waiting for the lights to start going red. Ooh, this is always the exciting part, as we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now here we go. All the drivers have gone off their grid slots without too much trouble. I think it's quite clean. However, Martin Winnick overtakes Daniel Brewer into the first corner. Martin Winnick, it looks like he's going to go through. However, there was a bit of an issue with Roy Stroten going a bit sideways in the first corner, losing quite a few places currently in 10th place. There seems to be movement of a driver behind. However, it seems like we have gotten through the first couple corners without too much hassle.
No, I'm afraid not. We've already lost a driver. Narayan Kumar has had a huge crash, lost his entire rear end, both rear wheels gone, flipped straight over. Yeah, some people in the chat were saying there was going to be inevitable carnage. We've already got it. A couple of drivers involved. But it's Machin Winnick who's got the lead at the start of the race, got up the inside of Daniel Brewer through turn 1 and just held it there. So it's Winnick leading from Brewer, Lindberg, Ruel, Gerber, Peisler, Ferreira, Schroten, Downard, and Shrelanovic. Those are the top 10. Couple of guys taking looks at the cars ahead of them down the back straight there. And that was one of the YTF1 cars getting demoted. No, one of the one of the Multiforce cars getting demoted. Bruce Zupanek gets past Fabian Ruda for 13th position. Now, as we head down the back straight, what is going to happen at the front of the field? The leaders seem a little bit spread out now, but look at 5th. Patrick Gerber going defensive from Bastian Peisler, who pops himself up the inside. Whoa, big lockup, and he parks himself on the inside line. Gerber has had to brake to get off the exit, and Peisler gets the place despite being on the harder compounded tyres. This has been a great start from Peisler. He goes off. So Peisler runs wide at the final corner. He's going to give the place back to Patrick Gerber. They bang wheels as they're side by side on the straight. That was very close, and it's Peisler who keeps the inside line somehow for turn 1. Peisler still 5th, Gerber 6th, and I don't know how they're still in those positions.
I'm not entirely sure either, to be honest. I think it was just purely on the basis that Peisler had the inside line into the first corner. And of course, we're again terribly sorry that you may not be able to still see. Oh no, we can actually finally see at least the running order right now. But we're again still terribly sorry that you cannot see what's happening on the track. However, stuff here is exciting, so it's kind of nearly we're sorry that you have to miss it. However, there's also been a bit of a fight between Matthew Marquardt and Antonio and Patrick Kraus earlier on, side by side into the first corner as well for 11th place. A lot of drivers still being very close, and seems like actually Stefan Ruolt is nearly preparing an attack on Johan Lindberg for 3rd place. They are going nearly side by side into the corner, going onto the very long back straight, one of the longest straights of any track in this calendar, I think. And Stefan Ruolt does go and has the bit of draft. I don't think the DRS is opened yet. However, he goes side by side. He goes to the outside. Stefan Ruolt going for a move, and he's already completely in front of Lindberg. However, Lindberg breaks earlier, hits the apex, and Ruolt manages to hold on to the exit somehow on the outside of a hairpin and manages to go into 3rd place.
So our championship leader up to 3rd now, behind Daniel Brewer, the Scuderia Clay Geely Cup. We've had an accident at the back. Adam Osger had just passed Fabian Ruder for 14th position, and then he did a Antonio Giovinazzi out of the final corner, went into the barrier. He is now running around at the back without a front wing. He did it in the worst part of the course because he had to do a whole other lap. He's now made it back into the pits. Still 27 cars running in this race, but several of them wounded. But it's Winnick leading from Brewer and Ruolt. So we've got both of the Scuderia Basilia cars in the top 3 now. The team leading the Constructors' Championship is certainly going to extend their lead if they finish like this. We still have the pit stages to go, but it's looking good for them at the moment. Following them, after the opening 2 laps, are Lindberg, Peisler, Gerber, Schroten, Downard, Ferreira, and Trelianovic. And then if we're going down for the rest of the points-paying positions, we also see Marquardt, Kraus, Superneck, Fuller, and Ruder, as there's a couple of cars side by side, as Marquardt's had a bad exit to the corner, and Trelianovic dives up the inside of Peisler for 9th. That's been a successful move, and Kraus has got Marquardt for 11th. Now Zupanek is going for the slipstream on Marquardt. Watch him getting a brilliant exit out to the corner. He's going to be right underneath him. This is for 12th position, and they're all in a chain behind Trelanovic, getting a tow, each of them from the car ahead. And Trelanovic having to go defensive from Gerber. Look ahead as well as Josh Downard is side by side with Bruno Souza Ferreira for 8th. They are through. And we've seen a couple of guys dropping down the order. Mike Bell's had a spin at the hairpin, recovers it by cutting across the hairpin to regain pretty much the position he was in.
We've also had a retirement from David Tapper. I'm not entirely sure what happened. It looks like possibly just a straight disconnect, but I'm not entirely sure what happened there. It doesn't look like his car was damaged. As I'm looking at Jack Mayer actually trying to overtake Rude on the outside for 15th place, not quite able to do it. And actually Gerard Batalla managed to squeeze inside as Mayer had an unfavorable line. And somehow Mayer lost the place rather than gain it, even though he was side by side with Fabian Ruder. It is fighting for the back places, but that is what happens when you have a back of the grid penalty, as Mayer goes for an inside move for Batalla, and there is nearly contact. However, Mayer manages to, I think, go to the outside of the next corner, and I think he's not going to be quite able to manage it, even though Batalla is on the harder compound of tire.
Huge crash in the background. 2 cars are rolling. It's Mike Quinn and Osvaldo Angeloni, who's 2nd in the championship, is up against the barrier and probably out of the race. He's trying to squirm his wheel to get the car back and onto its wheels again. He's on his side now, completely propped up against the barrier. He's now upside down. And Osvaldo Angeloni, who was 2nd in the championship coming into this round, is now in 25th position, upside down. He's got it going. So Osvaldo Angeloni has flipped the car over, and he's now running again. We've lost Mike Quint, who was the other driver involved in that incident. And unfortunately, this has been a bad start to the race for several drivers. There was a close moment between Brewer and Ruhl heading down into the first of the 2.
There is another fight between.
And now Brewer is going to go defensive from Ruhl, as Ruhl is going to the outside of turn 1. If he can hold it on here, that would be amazing. They almost bang wheels as Brewer explodes ahead through the braking point and keeps the position for now. But Ruhl was very close to him coming down into the first of the 2 hairpins last lap. That's probably going to be very similar this time round as well. So we'll see what happens there this time round. Well, he's not as close as he was last time, but still sticking with him, and I'm sure there's more to that story that we're going to see later on.
I'll tell you what, though, that is slowing them down, and already 3.5 seconds down Matthew Winnick, who's running away with it at the moment. Let's see his lap times there. He does have the fastest lap time of anybody this race by half a second. It is it's actually incredible. The second fastest lap out of anybody is Stefan Ruhl with half a second slower lap of a 140.2 from Winnick and 140.75 from Stefan. And then Daniel Brewer with the next lap up of 140.8, and nobody else in the 140s. Everyone above 141. This is some incredible pace from the Scuderia Basilea drivers. And I think right now we have a bit of a battle again. Stefan Ruhl going on the outside of the hairpin again after the long straight for Daniel Brewer. Daniel Brewer runs them wide. Stefan Ruhl has to run onto the curb and onto the AstroTurf and loses a lot of time by running on the track with no grip, and now loses about a second and a half to Brewer, and both of them lose time to Winnick.
I've just been looking back at the accident with Osvaldo Angeloni. It's pissed at what happened. Actually started ahead of that incident. It started between Jean-Pierre Helpap and Stefan Macready. Those two made contact, and then in the ensuing chaos, Quint and Angeloni made heavy contact, and both of them flipped over. Really bad luck for Angeloni, and all started by someone else's incident, as are so many of the incidents we do see in motorsport, which is a shame. But anyway, indeed, this battle between Brewer and Ruhl just seems to, it closes up, and then Ruhl makes a mistake trying to pass Brewer, or Brewer runs Ruhl wide or something like that, and Ruhl drops back again and has to do it all over again. And that has happened 2 or 3 times so far, and it looks as if it's going to start happening again. We'll see whether the move is successful next time, but it's certainly a repeating cycle there. And I tell you what, I'll tell you who's coming off worse out of the two of them, and that is Stefan Ruhl, who is probably biting his tires as Stefan Macready goes off in the same place.
Well, you say that now, but if you look at them again, they're very close once again. After Stefan Ruhl put up the fastest second sector of anybody this race, going purple, going over half, actually 6/10 quicker than Daniel Brewer. And now he's back on the back wing, the rear wing of Daniel Brewer, and he is going to go for an attempted move, I think, into the on the start-finish straight. If he can just close in a little bit, it looks like he is so much faster than Daniel. And I think he is the only driver that has any chance of catching up to Matthew Winnick at this point. But he is not quite able to come close to Daniel Brewer for the first corner. And it looks like Stefan Ruhl is going to have to wait for a long straight once again, unless Brewer makes some kind of a mistake.
There are many drivers talking about the incidents early on in this race in the both the SimNews.TV chat and also the other one. Naranjan Kumar is saying that it was caused by lag. Mike Quint was saying that it was caused by lag. Basically, everyone is blaming lag here, and it has been a bad start for the people at the back of the order. Pretty much no luck whatsoever, which is a shame. Of course, Kumar was the driver we saw getting flipped up at turn 1, absolutely smashing his car to pieces many times over. And now Ruhl is back on the tail of Daniel Brewer. He might have a go down here. No, he's not going to have a go on the back straight. That's something that we don't tend to see. But now they're going to head out onto what you could see as the other back straight, the sort of penultimate one. And Ruhl is going to get a good run out of here with the addition of DRS. Ruhl under the rear wing of Daniel Brewer here towards the end of the lap. Oh my word, goes right over to the inside of the circuit, very nearly touches the line as Brewer defends, almost goes onto the grass. Both of them do, and somehow they've stayed on the road. I thought Brewer was going right off the road there, but he just about managed to save it, and Brewer keeps the position for now. And every time this happens, every time Brewer gets close to Brewer, something like that happens, and he's forced to drop back. Brewer is defending so aggressively today. Brewer is probably seething.
Yes, that was a very, very aggressive move, to say the very least, going very much across the entire circuit. Of course, that was the one move he is usually allowed to do, although that is not usually a reactionary move that he can do. So I think that may be looked at, but I don't think it will be, to be perfectly honest. However, that was an amazing try from Rules, being so very close and being and just not quite able to get on the outside, because Brewer seems to, no matter what happens, he seems to be able to break himself perfectly to that hairpin on the near the end of the lap, and somehow always manages to tighten his line up to the point where Rule just cannot get him on the outside, just like he did with Johan Lindberg.
Brewer is so good on the brakes. I've just had a look back at that incident, and it looks all fair, actually. It looks as if Brewer just went for a gap that was closing and closing, and Brewer was moving over in time. So I think that was all fair. It was just very, very close. Let's see if we have a replay of that this time round, because they're at the same part of the track. And Brewer is again in the slipstream. He's going to have the DRS as he did last time around. He's got the DRS flap open. They go over to the inside of the circuit again, this time not quite so aggressively. Brewer goes to the outside here down as we head towards the penultimate corner, the hairpin. He's on the outside line. Does he drag his way right around the outside? Brewer can't run him out of road. And it's a Scooter and Basilia 1-2 in the order. Brewer gets second position and pits. They both pit immediately. So both of them pit straight after the move has been pulled. And that's an interesting one. I would have thought that if Ruel had known he was pitting that lap, he would have just backed off and not really risked anything. But they're both in the pits. So it's a race in the pits for Ruel and Brewer, both putting on the harder compounded tyres. Watch the two green stripes cars there, pretty much banging wheels, heading down the start-finish strike. Zipanek goes around the outside of Downard. Fialanovic and Markard also fighting.
There's contact between Ruel and Brewer in the pits. They were side by side, and Ruel just pushed over Brewer into the wall, and they kind of had contact, but I think there isn't anything going on. And I mean, the only thing I can see out of Ruel trying that attack was in lap was him trying to get that jump in the pit.
Brewer is not going to be happy about that. With the two of them coming together in the pit lane, this is proper clashing racing from our leaders here, our effective leaders. They're technically 14th and 15th, but they're effectively leading this race, of course. They were the first couple of guys to pit. Oh, contact close. Yeah, well, very nearly contact between Fuller and Batalla for 11th position there. That was close. Also, Mayer is going for Fialanovic. That's for 9th now, effectively, I think 11th. Mayer dives to the inside. Fialanovic locks up, and Mayer gets the place there. That's a good move from Mayer as Fialanovic bites his tyres. And now, of course, we have Maciej Winnick leading the race as Bruno Sousa Ferreira stops by the side of the track. Has he got any? No, he's lost the engine. So we've had an incident involving Bruno Sousa Ferreira. I'll go back in the footage to see if I can find out what's happened there. It looks as if has he just shifted down to? Well, he's been coasting down the entire straight. I think he's trying to coast it back to the pits.
We have Maciej Winnick in the pits, by the way, and Johan Lindberg as well. It seems like the soft tires do not last very long on this track at all. And now they're going on to the harder compound of tires. I do wonder if it's going to last the entire race at this point, or if we're going to need another pit. Antonio Hrljanovic also in pits currently, and it's going to be fascinating to see. Also, Johan Lindberg is in pits for a very, very long time.
I tell you what, both Ruel and Brewer have both been caught up by Mike Bell here, and Bell actually had to go back at Ruel, almost got past him again. So, and this is really splitting the two of them, and that's not what Daniel Brewer would have wanted. Stefan Ruel is rubbing his hands with glee that he was able to get past Mike Bell so quickly. But of course, because Bell is not a lap down in terms of the actual order, he is fully entitled to be defending here. And although it is really annoying for Daniel Brewer, he is entitled to be doing this. Brewer, oh no! He has a look. He has an ambitious look at Mike Bell's rear end, touches him, and has a big wiggle, somehow saves it. Bell goes off, although doesn't lose any more places than just a Brewer. Brewer goes through, but I tell you what, Bell is not going to be happy, and that might well be looked at by the race steward as Brewer gets past Bell with contact, and I think that was an unfair move, actually.
Yeah, it definitely didn't look like the most fair move I've ever seen, and to be honest, this whole situation seems to be a little bit on the edge of the rules at the very best. But yeah, I think that this is going to be investigated by the stewards afterwards anyway, since contact like this does not seem like a fair game. Especially, you know, you're fighting, and to be honest, it's a tactical error if you're stuck behind a driver after pitting in who hasn't pitted in yet. It's a bit of a tactical error on your side. So at that point, the only, you know, any kind of incident is your own fault if you cause it. It's not that the driver's not getting out of your way anyway.
Johan Lindberg is out, and that's a big shame. He was very high up in qualifying. I think he started third on the grid. So it's a big shame to see him out of this race. We actually just went side by side for the lead there, the lead on the track between Bastian Peisler and Roy Schroten. Schroten got it and then immediately dived into the pits. He's now in 13th position as Tuomala goes around the outside of Gerrit de Vries for 14th, kicks out the rear end. That was very close, and de Vries is going to keep that. But Tuomala coming from the back of the grid. That's a good recovery from him so far. Still got a long way to go through the order here, and that's helped by the fact that a couple of people have already pitted. Now, Maciej Młynek is ahead of... Well, never mind. So Młynek pitted, of course. He's now side by side with Jack Nair. I'm just getting really confused for some reason, but Młynek gets the place there. He's up into 5th on the road. Still effectively leading, of course. He's on the harder compounded tyre. Right, now, who is going to...
Ruolt, though, to be honest, because Ruolt is nearly being taken out by Batalla, who goes completely sideways out of the second to last corner. And Ruolt now has to get past 2 drivers to have any hope of catching Młynek at this rate, because he's already, at this point, 7 or 8 seconds down. 7, I think.
Yep.
But he's losing time hand over fist.
Yeah, unfortunately. So a couple of guys in the pits. Patrick Gerber, Jack Nair doing a Lewis Hamilton on the way in, going into the gravel trap. That's probably not the last time we're going to see that this week. Gerrit de Vries is in. Patrick Kraus is in. So definitely a good lap for stopping. Stefan McCready surely has to stop soon if he hasn't already, because he has big flat spots on the front tyres of his car that I can see. Also, we've lost Bruno Sousa Ferreira from this race. So we saw him moving slowly without any power going to the wheels. He is now out of the race.
Yeah, apparently ran out of fuel.
Out of fuel. So miscalculation there. Probably should have pitted a lap earlier. Well, definitely should have pitted a lap earlier. And now, as you said, Ruhl is caught up behind Fuller, and Brewer is right on the rear of him. This is for effectively the lead of the race. Brewer showed himself to the mirrors of Stefan Ruhl's car as there's a lock-up ahead for Mark Fuller. And... now they're all going to get bunched up again as they head out onto the back straight. Ruhl is tucked right underneath the rear wing of Mark Fuller's car. Watch this as they head onto the long penultimate straight. Ruhl is he finds a very slow moving Matthew Marquardt. I think Marquardt is out of fuel, so Marquardt runs out of fuel on the final straight. Watch Brewer going to the inside of both Fuller and Ruhl. But Fuller gets nicely out of the way. Ruhl is still ahead of Brewer, so it's Brewer and Ruhl, who both passed Mark Fuller there. Marquardt is still trying to coast it back to the pits. I don't think he's going to make it, unfortunately. So Marquardt is going to be out of the race here. That's a shame. We've seen a couple of people really miscalculating the fuel here. Downard and Helpap are side by side for 13th. Downard gets that for now. Tuomala pits. It's an A ending. Bastian Peisler pits from what was the lead on the road, and that gives the lead on the road now to Bent Supernek, who is the last driver up the front of the field, still yet to pit. So Supernek will come in very shortly, probably this lap. Although, no, he won't actually, because he's starting on the harder compounded tyres. So Supernek is going to be probably going for a little while yet into the second half of the race. So we'll see just how long Supernek can make these tyres last. He is being caught hand over fist by Maciej Młynek behind him on much fresher tyres. Gerard Batalla still hasn't pitted yet either. He's currently running third, although behind him and still effectively ahead of him are Ruhl and Brewer. They're effectively second and third, and they've dropped back a long way from Maciej Młynek, who is effectively running away with this race despite being second on the road.
Yes, that's very much what it looks like. Also, something that I kind of nearly want to mention, because this is something that we definitely couldn't say for a very, very long time now. we have a green stripes car leading a race.
Well, that's great to hear.
Yes, finally. Well, of course, it is due to the pit stops, and as Ben Zupanek actually does come into pits for a change of tires. But we did have Ben Zupanek lead a race in the green stripes car, which is not something we've been used to for the last couple of seasons, with them being a bit of an unlucky backmarker in Super League. However, they seem to be doing a little bit better around here.
Certainly so. Of course, Green Stripes had a bad year last year and were forced to step down from Super League. So it's good to see that they had their moment in the sunshine today. But anyway, it is now Maciej Winnick leading this race after Zupanek pits. And second is Stefan Roth, followed by Daniel Brewer, Yuri Kazdorp, Bastian Peisler, Roy Schroeder, Mike Bell, who I believe is still yet to stop, Ben Zupanek, Patrick Gerber, and Josh Downard. So those are the top 10 for now. And Mayer is still looking at the back of Hellpat. Those two have been battling for a little while now.
So here's my theory for the rest of this race. I think we're still probably going to see one more pit stop from most drivers, because they've been... I think pretty much everybody has stopped at this point, and even the drivers on the harder compound with tires have already stopped once. Yes. So I have a feeling like we're going to have another stop from all of the drivers for a harder or a softer compound of tires, and even then they're going to have to take so much care to get to the pit to the end on one pit stop. It seems like these tires don't last that well around here.
You see, that confused me because, of course, I expected that that we were going to see Zupanek going for a much longer stint. In fact, Adam Oscar is already in for his second stop. His first was due to damage, but it does look as if the cars are just not lasting. The tires are just not lasting, rather, and I can imagine that there are still going to be some guys going for a one-stop strategy, but it's going to be very, very difficult. And we'll see how that is by the end of the race and who can make these tires last. Of course, I was expecting Zupanek to go for longer because he starts on the hards. We usually see the hard tire run well into the second half of the race if they start on that harder compound. But it looks as if Shanghai is just very bad on the tires. And of course it would be. We've got many, many high-speed corners here, yes, including turn 1, the turn 12 and 13, which you see heading onto the long straight. They're all very, very high degradation corners. And these corners you see Maciej Winnick going through now as well.
As we had Yuri Kastrop and Mike Bell in the pits, and Yuri Kastrop changing onto a softer compound of tires, so he's definitely going to have to pit once again.
Yeah, definitely looks as if the two-stop strategy is the one to be on today, which I don't think we've seen in Super League for an extremely long time. I wonder...
Supercup. And...
Supercup, rather, yeah. Supercup.
No,
we've seen it in Super League very often.
Oh, we've actually seen that a lot last season. That was the preferred strategy by the end of the season last season.
Was it?
Yes, because the drivers usually only raced on the soft tire and then went for a single lap to satisfy the regulations for the harder component tires.
I can remember that. Yeah. You're right.
So it is actually usual, but I have a hunch that it's going to be 2 minimum and 3 as a possibility for some drivers, because it just doesn't seem to me like we can nearly... maybe some drivers may not even be able to manage the harder component tires for long enough to manage a two-stop. This is actually quite a scary prospect, really.
It certainly is, I tell you, because we're not used to seeing quite this much tire wear. And in Australia, I believe it
Jack
was...
Mayer.
Oh, what's happened with... Oh, he's out of... Is he out of fuel? We've seen a couple of guys...
He crashed. He does not have his front wing, and he's seemingly going slow and going to thankfully only have to do a couple corners without a front wing. However, he seems to have crashed on a straight.
It was lag.
Somehow.
It was lag. Unfortunately, we've had another lag issue. It was one with Patrick Gerber. So Gerber lagged back into Jack Mayer's car, flipped it up in the air, and unfortunately, that is none of Jack Mayer's fault at all. He was completely unlucky there. Goes into the barrier. I thought he was out of fuel initially because we've seen a couple of fuel issues, and it looks as if Patrick Gerber is going to get away with it absolutely fine. It was just a horrible lag issue for Patrick Gerber, which has caught out Jack Mayer. We've seen that a couple of times. Jean-Pierre Hellpat was so lucky because he went straight past Patrick Gerber, and if he tagged him, we could have had a big, big pile-up.
Absolutely. But, absolutely, and it looks like, and luckily, this is not the first time this happened this season. I think we've... first of all, we've had that on the we have had this on the first lap of this race with a couple casualties with Kumar being one, the prominent one of them, and our first retirement of this race, actually due to lag. However, we've also had it in Super League this season with Alex Thibault getting taken out by Alex Cooper in. So I mean, it seems like this season is not starting very well in terms of our lag issues.
The Formula Challenge yesterday had a big one. That was for third place, I believe, in race 1. If you go back and watch that, there was a driver who was caught out of third place due to a lag issue yesterday, and that was just tragic. It was third place and fifth place involved in that, actually. Jared Batalla has just got past Antonio Kralinovic. That is for 10th position, and that changed there down into the second sector of the course. Kralinovic, oh no, getting tagged from the rear by Katsdorp, who misses his braking down into the hairpin, runs into the rear of Antonio Kralinovic, and luckily they both get away with it. No one loses any bodywork, but Katsdorp does get through and now runs over the runoff area at the final corner. He's going to be passed now by Kralinovic, and into the pits comes Jean-Pierre Helpup. So that looks like a second stop to me, and I reckon that we are definitely going to get 2 stops for the majority of these drivers. Battle going on the straight between Angeloni and Kraus. Of course, Angeloni on the recovery drive after that big accident earlier on, and Kraus trying to go around the outside of Osvaldo through turn 1. They bang wheels, and Osvaldo keeps it, but goes wide now, and Kraus on the softer compounded tire has the inside line for turn 2.
I'm also pleased to announce that we finally have picture, and you are now watching the race. So thankfully now we're back to actually doing a commentary on a TV, on a broadcast rather than a radio broadcast. So
fantastic.
So that's really nice to see. As you can finally see, there's 2 Scuderia Basilea cars leading this race, with Daniel Brewer actually losing a little bit to Stefan Roll, but still keeping within about 2.5 seconds behind Stefan. While everyone else is just they're absolutely light years away from everybody else at this point. 17 seconds behind the leader is Bastian Peisler in 4th place, who may have some trouble with Roy Schroten if Roy can just have a bit of a better pace. However, it seems like it is the other way around, and Bastian at the moment is running away.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, that battle I was just talking about between Angeloni and Kraus ended with Kraus having a spin, very nearly taking off Angeloni for the second time. That would have been, or for Angeloni's second time at that same corner, that would have been terrible for Angeloni, but he's currently running in 13th position, so he's going to recover some points from this race if it finishes like this. Still very disappointing for the driver who went into this round second in the championship, though. He didn't appear to have the pace in qualifying, really, and of course dropped back at the start as well, but then had that accident, and now he's running in 13th. So disappointing, but at least he's still running. Maciej Młynek is leading this race by 9.5 seconds now. That's an amazing performance so far from Maciej Młynek.
Maciej Młynek doing exactly what he needs to do. The only driver who can challenge him is his teammate, and he has managed. And through traffic and through just being contested at all times and just having a slightly worse strategy, Stefan just couldn't quite keep up, and now is 9.5 seconds behind, and seemingly only losing time to Maciej, who's absolutely on it, and of course has seemingly he has been as quick in the first round as well. I can't now remember for the life of me why he lost so many places in the first race of this season. There's been a lot happening. However, Maciej absolutely running away with it and doing fantastic job in what can only be called a Scuderia Basilea domination.
Well, so far, certainly. And, well, it's certainly been a great drive from the 2 drivers who are leading the Constructors' Championship at the moment. Amazing performance from them, as we saw in qualifying. And those 2 poised to extend their championship lead. And Młynek poised to jump up several positions in the championship. I believe he was involved in an incident towards the start of race 1 last time out. But
or he had a disconnect, one of the 2. I think it was actually a straight disconnect that happened to Maciej in the first race. And
yeah, I think it might have been. Yeah.
But either way, it was somewhat of an unlucky weekend at that point. But now Maciej doing all that he can to make that up and start gaining the points back, because let's be honest, he is a very, very fast driver, and he's showing it in this race and this season so far.
Certainly is. Our reigning Formula Challenge champion, stepping up to Super Cup for this year and showing that, well, he can dominate whatever series you put him in, really. And Winnick, who was one of the super subs for Super League last year, did a brilliant job at the first round of that last time out, has really made a name for himself within GPVWC, and he's making even more of a name for himself this season.
So after this race, if this is how the race would have ended at this point, I'm just looking at the points quickly, and Matty would then have a 21-point deficit to Stefan World, who would still definitely be leading the championship. So at the moment, it's looking very good for Scuderia Basilea, and it only looks like we will be getting an improvement in their lead in terms of points for the championship. Also, something very interesting to mention, of course, is that Scuderia Basilea is this year's. They've actually only just come back into Super Cup after spending a few seasons in Formula Challenge, and coming back in a very, very strong fashion.
Yeah, they stepped up with Winnick. I think Osvaldo Angeloni, or one of Osvaldo Angeloni's problems here this weekend, is actually straight line speed. Because I just watched him going down the penultimate straight there, and he got completely swamped by the drivers around him. Tuamalo went by, as did Jean-Pierre Halpap, although immediately lost that position again. And of course, that was helped by the slipstream, but it looked extra dramatic to just be from slipstream. I think Angeloni doesn't have the straight line speed that the other drivers do this weekend. Maybe his gearing ratio isn't set to the right setting, or maybe he just doesn't have or maybe he just has too much aerodynamics on the car, too much downforce rather. He's actually now being passed through the corners by both Helpup and Bell. They both get past him there, and he's now out of the points. So this is hugely disappointing for a very struggling Osvaldo Angeloni.
Yes, suspension damage. If you look at his steering wheel, you can see it clearly bent whenever he's going in a straight line. So yeah, he definitely has damage, and I think that's why he's losing so much time.
Yeah, I noticed that now. That would have been from his big flip earlier on. It's only slight. It's only slight, but of course, even that slight suspension damage can really put you off through the corners, especially. And he is losing a lot of time in this race after what had been a good recovery.
Yes, and luckily it's one of those things where you don't have the confidence in your car, and the problem is when you can't push it through the corners, you can't quite do as well as you'd hope, and you just cannot, and you'll just lose so much time. And in the straight line, ooh, I've just seen something dangerous. Antonio Hryljanovic going to the first corner as Josh Danward, coming out of pits, just completely in the line of Hryljanovic, and somehow getting away with it. However, Hryljanovic had to run wide. It was a bit of a scary moment, as we have Angelone and Gerd de Vries in pits.
Battle for fifth is on. Roy Schroten has really been caught now by Ben Schupanek, who of course was one of our latest drivers to stop because he started on the harder compound, and now he has caught up to Roy Schroten and is in his slipstream in the DRS range as they head down the back straight. This is for fifth position. Schupanek goes to the inside line here, and it looks as if he has it. Yes, he does. So Ben Schupanek, oh, well, Schroten nudges him up the rear there as Schupanek slightly slower out of the corner than Schroten was expecting. But luckily, he doesn't pick up his rear end and turn him round, as we've seen happening a couple of times. Brewer does indeed pit now, as does one of the Scuderia Basilea cars. Ruel is in. So Ruel pits as well as Brewer. It's another race in the pit lane. And of course, these two came together last time that happened. It looks as if they're a lot more spread out this time, though. And Ruel gets going ahead as Schupanek has a bit of a wiggle behind Schroten.
As Gerber has a look on the at Ruel as he comes out of the pits, and it's a little bit dangerous always when you come up to a slow car into that first corner. It's so very fast on this track. And Gerber stays behind Ruel, who will be on a cold set of tires coming out of the pits, and however, it will be a fresh set of harder compound tires, which at this point will definitely last him till the end of the race. So to me, it looks like it is definitely a two-stop strategy that is the key way of finishing this race.
And Jupinek loses it. Good save. Look at that. Drives it right around the inside of the of those two left-handers there. But I really thought he was going to spin it round because that was very close from Ben Jupinek as he ran in the dirty air of Roy Schroten's car and got very, very sideways. Just found the grip in exactly the right place and kept the car pointing in the right direction. But it was very close, and he's lost a lot of time. Does he still have the DRS? Yes, I think he does here, as Schroten gets the DRS off the back marker there. Adam Oscar, who had an incident earlier on and had to pit to repair his front wing. Getting in the way of Jupinek now. That's a bit of a poor show of driving from Adam Oscar, who gets in the way of Ben Jupinek, and now pits.
Oh, it's always a bit difficult with back markers, unluckily, and you'll always lose a bit of time, but you always want to lose as little time as possible with back markers. And if somebody gets in their way, if you can cast them in a tight section, it's a little bit, it's always kind of sad in terms of a fight. However, sometimes they just can't get out of the way, and they do have a couple corners to do so.
The thing with Oscar there was that he was already on the outside line, giving way to the car of Roy Schroten, I think, and if he just stayed on that line, then Jupinek would have been able to get him very easily. So Oscar obviously not seeing that there were two cars coming through, or misjudging the gap or something like that. But anyway, it's all fine for now. There hasn't been an incident or anything like that, and Jupinek is still on the tail of Roy Schroten. Bastian Peisler, interestingly, is just ahead of them on the road. He's been having a very good race. I told you he'd be a dark horse, although he is still, of course, due another pit stop, as a lot of these guys are.
Yes, and I think he'll be one of the drivers who will have to probably go into the softer component of tires. I'm not entirely sure right now, but he is definitely making these tires last a good bit now. And Maciej Młynek is also another driver that's keeping them going. He has pitted, of course, quite a bit later than his teammate, and now it's keeping them going. And what is going on?
Well, Jupinek got very, very crossed up on the entrance to the hairpin, got over the curb and got very, very squirrely, went into the back of Roy Schroten's car, just like Roy Schroten did to him a couple of laps earlier. Schroten weaves about to make sure there's no damage and pits the car immediately. So
there looks to be no damage, hopefully. Possibly it was a planned pit stop, but we will never know. He is incoming for the softer compound tires, and he is out, and seemingly without too much damage repair, because that was a fast pit stop.
Yeah, I don't think there was any proper damage occurred from that. It was a very kind of square hit in the rear, and you don't tend to get damage from that other than diffuser damage, which of course is not really simulated that much by a simulator. So he would have got away with that there, Roy Schroten. And well, he's very lucky because, as I said, we often see cars basically having their rears picked up and turned around, and luckily that didn't happen today.
Yes, and that isn't that it's kind of interesting though, because that's one of the reasons. As we have a spin from Gerrit de Vries going into the final corner. Into the second final corner. Actually, one of the things is the low noses of these cars would probably create quite a bit of a ramp, which is why we see so many cars flying after a hit. Maciej Młynek coming into the pits for his final stop, going more than likely onto the harder compound of tires, since we still have nearly 10 laps to go. Doing a fantastic job up front. Coming in. Oh no, he's going for the softer compound of tires. He is going to go for an absolutely incredible final stint. He's probably going to get one or two fastest laps of the race again.
Ben Jupinek also into the pits. Yeah, I believe Maciej Młynek can go to the end on these tires. Definitely. And well, it'll be a straight flight to the end now. He just needs to keep himself out of trouble and not make too many mistakes. But trust me, it's Maciej. He's still going to be pushing. He's still going to be pretty much the quickest driver on track. Jupinek also going on to the softer compounded tires now. Patrick Gerber pits. He is probably also going on to the softer compound, as we're seeing many of these drivers doing now. And Kasdorp and Tuamala, we're at Tuamala. I keep saying Tuamalo. were side by side there, and it looks as if Kasdorp is going to come out ahead of that one.
So I would definitely say Maciej can do 9 or 10 laps on this set of tires, considering he's done 9 on the starting set of tires. So he is definitely in for a race finish on this set. And as I'm looking, I was right about Bastian. He's going to have to go onto the softer component of tires still. He's so far done 2 stints of harder set of component of tires. And I think most drivers now are, I would say most drivers are now under going to be going onto the soft compound tires, since I think everybody's satisfied their two compound requirement, except for the drivers that start on the harder compound, who will do so with the final pit stop.
Well, one driver I'm not sure about is Bastian Paisler, because I don't remember whether he started on
the harder compound.
He starts on the harder compound, so he's on the harder compound again. That means he's going to have to, finish the race on the softer compound, of course. So, yeah, Paisler, of course, is going to finish the race on the softer compound. I don't know what I was thinking. Even if he had started it on the soft and gone onto the hard, he would still be able to go back for the soft again. So, Paisler still, still out there and actually leading the race at the moment, of course, because Winnick pitted and Ruel pitted and Brewer pitted, but Paisler yet to pit. Jared Batalla is in the pits. He was from 7th position on the road. He pits now, as does Josh Downard. Gerber and Fuller were side by side there. Gerber comes out ahead on the softer compound. Jean-Pierre Helpap is in this lap, as is Mikko Tuomala, who he is fighting with. And probably a couple more guys as well. I saw a lapped car going through, Stefan McCready, and Gerrit de Vries is out.
Okay. Gerrit de Vries, what happened there? Must have been an accident.
Oh, it was. I tell you what, I'm looking at the replay now. He's gone into turn 1. He's run very, very wide. What? That's a brake failure. That's a brake failure.
Oh, no.
The car just was not slowing or something like that. He tried to spin it round to slow it, and it's just gone into the wall. It's a weird one. It seems as if he's kind of revving in gear 4, but whatever the case, he's not braking, and the car has hit the wall hard, and I'm pretty sure that's a brake failure. We mentioned that there might be one.
Yeah, also, I'm just looking at some of the times, and Maciej Winnick is doing something incredible. The first sector was the fastest first sector of anybody this race. However, he has now been beaten by Ben Zupanek, and Maciej Winnick goes into the lead, and his lap is a 140.3, so he hasn't actually done that great of a lap. I think he had a bit, I think Paisler was hindering his laps a bit, and as Bastian goes onto the softer compound now and going out of the pits, I think he's going to be quite high up. I think he may be even challenging even Schroten at the pit exit there. Maybe not quite, but he will be very close, and I think it's going to be a fight for 4th place between Bastian Paisler, Roy Schroten, and Ben Zupanek.
Well, Schroten and Zupanek just went through, so Paisler comes out in 6th position, and this, I believe, is the proper order, the net order now, because I think everyone who needs to stop still has stopped. Winnick is leading from Ruel on the harder compound, so Ruel going to the end on the harder compound. Then it's Daniel Brewer, also on the harder compound. Roy Schroten, Ben Zupanek, and Bastian Paisler to make out the top 6. Patrick Gerber, Yuri Kasdorp, Mark Fuller, and Jared Batalla make out the top 10.
I'm just checking drivers, and I think we're still going to have Mark Fuller coming in for a stop on new tires, unless he makes these last for a very, very long time. To be honest, he made the softer compound last for 13 laps at the start of this race. So he is definitely one of those drivers who can make these tires last. Other drivers which I'm looking at are Osvaldo Angelone managed 20 laps on the harder compound, and I think is going to be attempting a very long run on the soft tires until the end of the race. Other than that, I think we have everybody who's satisfied. Everybody satisfied the rules already. It's just a matter of if they can make it to the end or not.
Yeah, just seen Fabian Ruder coming out of the pits. He's going to the end on the softer compound of tyre. Of course, scored an 11th place finish last time out, becoming one of the youngest Super Cup points finishers in history. But he is running 19th now, so unless there is a variety of different incidents in the last couple of laps, that's a pointless finish for Fabian Ruder, I'm afraid. Paisler, Zupanek, and Schroten are all side by side heading down the start-finish straight here. and they're going to come out in the same order, but only just. That was definitely a very close one. And this battle, I'm sure, is not over yet, as we still have about 20% of the race remaining. And these three, so close, you can barely fit a sheet of paper between them at times.
Yes, and Ben Zupanek trying a move on the outside. Rfactor, there's contact! Rfactor goes to the side, into the side of Zupanek. And now Bastian Peisler is going to go for a move, and he's going to overtake Ben Zupanek at this point, with that contact benefiting Bastian the most. And now he's going to be the one who's going to be challenging Schroten for that 4th place, which is going to be a fantastic result for Bastian if he can get it.
Looked to me like Zupanek just turned in as if he didn't expect Roy Schroten to be there. But whatever the case, he's really lost out due to that, and Bastian Peisler is up into 5th.
Indeed, and I think Peisler is going to be very, very happy with this. Now he just needs to utilize this, and he needs to use the DRS, and hopefully he can use some kind of a superior speed to overtake Schroten, because this is a battle for 4th place. And he seems to be closing down, but I don't think he quite has it unless he can brake so late on the brakes, and he cannot. He takes it safe. Ben Zupanek not quite able to keep up with the drivers, though.
Well, it was certainly
straight anyway.
What's that?
Not quite in the straight anyway. I think he definitely can keep up with the speed, but I think Ben Zupanek is a little slower in the straight. It could be due to damage.
I'll have a look on board with Ben Zupanek. Of course, he did give Roy Schroten a big clonk heading down into the first of the 2 hairpins on the track last time around. Maybe he was slightly damaged from that. I wouldn't have thought it would have been dramatic in terms of his straight line speed. His steering looks straight. Of course, that isn't everything to do with damage. In a straight line, I don't think he'd be affected by damage here. He still appears to have every piece of his car on board, so
it's probably just a setup at that point, I would assume. Something very interesting, though, Daniel Brewer is losing time hand over fist from what I can tell, because he's already not about 10 seconds behind Stefan Ruold.
Well, he's been about the same gap behind Maciej Winnick for a while, so I think it's probably just that Ruold is pulling away from him. Although Ruold doesn't appear to be catching Winnick. I think actually that order seems to be pretty much the same as it was a couple of laps ago in terms of both the order and the time. But yeah,
it just looks to me like Daniel is losing somewhat anyway. Now, if I look at the sector,
Bastian goes to the outside of Roy Schroten, heading down into the hairpin, and well, there was a lot of closing speed, but he just couldn't utilize it yet, and has to go for it again. Schroten gets a bit squirrely out of the final corner here. Can Peisler capitalize and possibly have a dive into turn 1? It would be ambitious. It would be very ambitious, and he doesn't. And now Zupanek finds a gap. Zupanek's found a gap, and Peisler's found a gap on the outside, but that's going to force him very, very wide. Can he keep it on the inside? They bang wheels, and Zupanek runs it around and into 5th place. That's a good move from Zupanek to get into 5th position. And now, can he get back at Roy Schroten, who he's been battling with for pretty much the entire race?
Apparently, yeah. I mean, this is going to be this is absolutely incredible. And until I think this is going to be, as you said, the battle of till the very end of the race. At this point, I hope it is. I hope there isn't going to be anything happening in any kind of contact anymore from this point. However, what I'm seeing is Zupanek is going side by side, or not side by side, but sideways in some entries of the corners. So seemingly his rear end is starting to lose grip.
Well, I can imagine a lot of guys will be losing grip towards the end of this race. The tyres will be shodden, as we've had a long stint on this tyre already, and still about 10% of the race to go. And now again, Schroten goes defensive, heading down towards the penultimate corner. This has happened pretty much every lap that either Zupanek or Peisler has been behind him. Zupanek tries to run it around the outside. Of course, we don't tend to see that one paying off. We did earlier from the Scuderia Brasilia guys, but not there for Zupanek, and he's going to have to sit behind Schroten for a little while now. but still close enough to launch an attack pretty much whenever he wants to, I expect. And can he find a gap on Schroten here like he did on Peisler last time? No, because there isn't one. Schroten driving a very, very defensive line along the inside of the course, and the three of them almost overlapping through the tighter part of that complex at the start of the course. And now, watch them as they head into the first of the two hairpins. Zupanek goes to the outside. Peisler takes a look. I think they almost banged wheels there. Schroten defends the inside. Zupanek gets a dummy, but it's a fast corner. You can't do that. There's no braking zone there. So it's still Roy Schroten ahead. But we're heading into the part of the course with the braking zones now. Zupanek dives. That was more of a speculative one than an actual move, but it's bunched them right up. And now the three of them properly accordioning at every corner, and it's getting very, very tense here between these three for 4th, 5th, and 6th positions. Now we'll get the slipstream again, and the two behind, Zupanek and Peisler, will get the DRS. Schroten again darts to the inside of the track, as he has to do, just to show that they're not going to be able to get through there. They get in the slipstream. Zupanek pulls out. Peisler is still there. Now watch Zupanek as he tries to go around the outside. We saw that working earlier. It's going to work now. No, it isn't. He gets very crossed up. They're still side by side as we head down into the final corner. Zupanek outbrakes him. Does he make it? Yes, he does. Great move from Zupanek to get himself finally ahead of Roy Schroten. He's been trying to get that one for the whole race, although Schroten's immediately back through. Schroten gets a brilliant run out to the final corner and gets through on the start-finish straight. That's incredible. And now Peisler might well find a gap there. He doesn't. Zupanek is going to be spitting feathers as he got through, and now he's kicked out the rear end. Gets over the grass on the inside, and Peisler's having a look on the outside line of the first hairpin. Let's watch this. The number 96 car is going around the outside, but of course doesn't find a gap there, doesn't pull off a Zupanek on Zupanek as we go into the second sector of the course for the 32nd time. And Zupanek, well, he found a way past his race-long rival Roy Schroten, but then got a bad run out to the final corner as he had to go tight in, and Schroten was just able to get a good run onto the straight and drag his way past Ben Zupanek. Incredible fight.
It was an incredible fight, as you said. And it just looks like Ben's just had, when he kicked out, he just hit the gas pedal a bit too eagerly and just lost a bit of time. And now Roy Schroten has a bit of a breathing space room. However, Bastian Peisler is going for a move on the outside of Ben Zupanek, going for the same move that Ben's tried, as Ben's cannot
they both
brake
lock
properly.
Up. Wow, they both locked up. I was watching Ben Zupanek initially because he started to swirl under brakes, and then Peisler locked up, did the same thing, and speared across the track into Ben Zupanek. Now that was absolutely just a series of errors there from all of them, really, as Kralenovic emerges from the pits. But Zupanek and Peisler both making huge mistakes and colliding as a result, and dropping back even further now from Roy Schroten.
One driver who will have a big smile on his face due to this will be Roy Schroten, who now is a good few seconds in front of this little battle. I think it's 1.5 seconds at this point. Actually, 1 second. However, it looks like Bastian Peisler is definitely not giving up, and he's going to be going for any move that that he can on Ben Zupanek, who is now isolated from Roy Schroten, and he will hope for Zupanek will be hoping to still have DRS once he gets up to the long straight, because otherwise he may be a sitting duck for Bastian Peisler, who will do anything to get back up to that 5th place that he lost not too long ago. And this is, I think, a final lap, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And as actually Martin Winnick crosses the line for the final time, a race winner of this 3rd race of this season, the first of the double round here in Shanghai, Martin Winnick. A fantastic domination by Scuderia Basilea, who, because his teammate just comes in 2nd place, 11.5 seconds behind, with Daniel Brewer coming in another 13 seconds behind the Scuderia Basilea drivers in 3rd place to complete the podium.
Well, I'm glad we picked that up in time. That was close to the end, but amazing result from Maciej Winnick to win the race by 11.6 seconds. His teammate Stefan Roll crosses the line to make it a Scuderia Brasilia 1-2 in this race. Brewer is third, and then it's Schroten, Jupanek, and Peisler. So that battle ends in that order. Gerber crosses the line in seventh. Kasdorp is eighth. Watch Batala crossing the line now as he comes home in ninth position, with Josh Downard in 10th. A couple of lap cars have already finished there. And Josh Downard is 10th there. 11th is going to be Mark Fuller. He crosses the line now. 12th is Osvaldo Angeloni, who was second in the championship going into this round. He's dropped many, many points, unfortunately. Terrible race from him with several incidents. Jean-Pierre Helpap is 13th. 14th is Mike Bell. The final point in 15th goes to Jack Mayer, who almost loses it while celebrating. That's going to be embarrassing. Almost loses the final point to Mikkel Tuamala, who just misses out on the points. And then a lap down and finishing the race were Fabian Ruder, Antonio Shrelenovic, Adam Oscar, and the final finisher, Stefan McCready. Now, there was another retirement towards the end of that race, Patrick Kraus, who was involved in Antonio Shrelenovic's incident. Shrelenovic got crossed up coming out of the final corner, hit Patrick Kraus, went into the barrier, and it looks as if Kraus has just retired as a result, thought he had too much damage. So an unfortunate incident has happened towards the end of the race. We also had retirements from Gerrit de Vries, Matthew Marquardt, Johan Lindberg, Bruno Sousa Ferreira, Mike Quint, Dawe Tapper, and Naran Kuma. So many incidents at the start of the race, unfortunately. Many incidents throughout the race, unfortunately. With Tapper's actually being a plain old disconnect, I seem to remember. But look at the Scuderia Brasilia guys now as they line up side by side on the long straight in celebration. Both of those driving an absolutely brilliant race to extend their championship lead. And last year's Formula Challenge champions are now going well and truly for the Supercup crown.
At this point, it looks very, very good for their challenge. If they can keep up this kind of form, this is going to be very difficult to catch up to them. And this is very much looking like a very strong pairing from Maciej Winnick and Stefan Ruold. And it's going to be very interesting to see once we get to the second race, of course. It's going to be a reverse grid. So it could be difficult or it could be easy for them to come back. It very much depends on how well they can do. But with the way that we've seen Stefan being able to overtake and Maciej both really, I think it's not going to be a question of if, but rather of when they're going to be fighting for the lead.
Well, certainly, Maciej definitely gained a lot of points there on Stefan Ruold. I don't believe that there are any sort of team orders of that team, and quite rightly too. It's great to see them battling away, although Maciej, of course, got ahead of Daniel Brewer at the start there and then just ran away with it. It was a dominant performance from Maciej Winnick, as we were all expecting last time out at Melbourne. I believe it is still Stefan Ruold leading the Drivers' Championship here. I'm not entirely sure of the overall order. It's very difficult to tell this early on in the championship. And I don't believe we'll be able to really know until after this event has finished. But still, it's great to see that we've had such a good display of driving in race one.
Yes, all I can say for sure is that Maciej Winnick will be 21 points behind Stefan Ruold after this race. He has gained 5 points on Stefan. And so at the moment, Stefan is definitely going to be leading, considering all the closest driver that was high up was Daniel Brewer, who was 2 points behind. So Daniel Brewer is going to be second in the championship. And that's all I can really tell from the current standing, because it is very difficult to count them up in your head.
Of course.
But no, it looks like Maciej will be definitely rising up from the 10th place by a good few places at the very least. Most likely going at the very least to 8th place, probably more like 7th, 6th. But I think we're going to only be really able to tell after the second race and after the results are uploaded to the website. And then we can all see exactly how the standings will look at the end of this weekend.
Certainly, make sure to go over to the GPVWC website and check that out after this weekend. I'm sure we'll have many interesting movers in terms of the championship order, and it'll certainly be a big sort out this round, will be.
Indeed. And just to mention once again, for anybody that tuned in after I said it, I am looking at the chat on the SimNews.TV YouTube channel. So if you want to chat or let me know of something, please feel free to just type it into the YouTube chat and I will be there to read it off or to comment on it if I feel appropriate. It is appropriate. So, yes, outside of that, so what did you think of the race? Because I thought that was very interesting. In many ways, a lot cleaner than we've seen in Australia. But I think that's a good thing, of course.
Well, sadly, we had a few lag issues towards the start. Then again, I believe we actually have more in Australia. So, yeah, a couple of lag issues in this opening part of the season, taking out a couple of drivers. Sadly, that's always been a part of sim racing. And many drivers having their race ruined at the start. 3 or 4, I think, retiring in the first couple of laps through that, which was a shame. But after that, we got the strategy and the racing properly on. Schroten and Jupinek were at each other's throats for pretty much the entire time, with, of course, Bastian Peisler joining into that one as well. Very, very good race we saw there, ending with a very, very close battle. And I've got no idea how they didn't all take each other off at many different points of the race. But yeah, amazing to see a race like that. There were battles up and down the field. Of course, the top 3, they were pretty spread out. But apart from those, it was a very good race to see.
Yes, also we have our reverse grid driver at this point, and it is the number 10. It is the all 10 places get reversed, and Josh Downard is having his first ever GPVWC reverse pole. I definitely can relate to that. I think I did have one reverse grid pole before in Formula Challenge. I always feel it's a little bit nice when you just get that bit of a luck. However, yes, so it looks like it's going to be a very difficult job for the Scuderia Basilea guys to actually come back up. And it's going to be interesting because I'm also thinking, are we going to have a pit stop in the sprint race?
Well, that would certainly be something we haven't seen before. I mean, there is no mandatory pit stop in the sprint race, but if they're using up tyres this quickly, it might just be a strategic decision to make a pit stop at the start of this race, and that would be quite bizarre to see. So
yeah, it would be very interesting. I think it's going to be more of a. I've seen some drivers do 20 laps on these tires, on the harder compound of tires, but I don't think they were pushing as hard as the top driver. So what it could end up being is that some drivers may just conserve the tires more and may end up having just trying to save that one pit stop, or there will be drivers who will go on to maybe trying to do the race on 2 sets of the soft compound of tires. That would be very interesting to see, seeing one driver do a hard tire race and then another driver do it on 2 sets of soft, or maybe just only do a last bit on the soft tire. It's going to be very interesting to see.
well, we have about 2 minutes until the warm-up session before the race 2 starts, and then we will get all of the drivers, of course, onto the grid again for the start of a second race, a sprint race, much shorter than the first race, and no mandatory pit stop. But that's what we're going to be seeing very shortly, and of course a reverse grid. The top 10 drivers at the end of the last race are going to be starting in the opposite order to the order they finished in for the start of this race, and that can also really sort of invert the front part of the field as it does, and create a lot of excitement as the quicker drivers fight to come through to the front of the field, and the drivers who finished towards the lower end of the top 10 struggle to maintain their places, and you often see real accordion effects at the start of these races and real standout performances. And let's face it, it always feels great to start at the front of the field, whether you got there through pace or whether you got there simply by finishing 9th or 10th. I mean, I've started on the front row of a reverse grid a couple of times, and yet I would never be quick enough to actually start at the front of the field in a race 1. It always feels good, and you do get a real sort of moment in the sun in a way. I mean, I've led races before, and I'd never have done that without without a reverse grid. So it always provides some great entertainment, good racing, and race 2, although it doesn't have the strategy that we see in race 1, really does make up for it in terms of the actual on-track racing, and that is what we're going to see in just a couple of minutes.
Yes, it's going to be fascinating, and it always feels nice, but it's always a little bit of a stressful environment at that point whenever you're in front and you know that your pace is maybe not good enough to keep everyone behind. And if you try to do it, it may be quite daunting and scary. So for some drivers, it may be a bit too much. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, all drivers behave in a good manner in that race anyway, and hopefully everyone goes through cleanly.
Well, I'm hearing from Matthew Allington in one of the Discord chat rooms, actually, that Yuri's retirement, Yuri Kastuk's retirement, was due to his engine cutting out in the pit lane. And that's unusual, but a shame to see, because Yuri Kastuk was having a very good race up until that point, and retires through what could have been an engine failure or something along those lines.
Interesting enough, it looks like Daniel Brewer has actually decided to abandon this race.
Daniel Brewer, but
yes.
he finished 3rd in the last race, so that's dramatic.
Yes, and he's quite high up in the standings, so he apparently is not coming back, and he is going to be missing out on this race. So we are going to be moving to the race now, but this is big news.
Has Daniel explained his reasoning for that?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm only just saying somebody saying quickly that he is not coming back after our race director asked for whether he is or not.
Well, that's a shame, because the thing with Matthew Brewer, of course, is that he is high up in the standings. Coming into this round, he was running in, if I just get my page up again, I've got on something different. Well, he was running high up in the championship, and of course he just got that 3rd place, which would have moved him even further up. He was actually running 4th. So that was his third in a row. So his third place in a row. And I think that actually put him up into 2nd in the championship, possibly. Yes. So Brewer was, I think he was 2nd in the championship. So that's utterly dramatic for the championship. He was properly fighting for the title this year, and well, that's going to severely hamper his early standings here.
Yes, it's going to definitely reflect badly on his championship position. Anyway, I do feel like, for example, a driver of the caliber of Matthew Winnick at that point has a shot of even overtaking him by winning the race. So this is going to be very fascinating to see, and quite sad to see. Such a driver actually not taking the 2nd race after they have finished the 1st one. However, what it does mean is that Matthew Winnick is going to be and Stefan Ruold have one less driver to worry about to try and win the race. So this is going to be fascinating. And as we go onto the formation map, our current starting order is as follows. From the reverse grid pole, we have Josh Downard with his first ever pole of any kind in GPVWC. We have Jared Batalla in 2nd place. 3rd place for Yuri Kastor. 4th from Patrick Gerber. Then 5th from Bastian Peisler after a very good race in the first time around here. Ben Zupanek, 6th, with 7th for Roy Schroden. 8th place for Stefan Ruold in the Scuderia Basilea, who are doing absolutely fantastic job throughout this weekend, as well as Matthew Winnick, his teammate, started the winner of the 1st race. Mark Fuller starting in 10th with 11th for Osvaldo Angelone. He's starting fairly high up. He will be trying to get the best he can out of this place. He was 2nd in the championship before the last race. He is not anymore, but he is going to try to get back up there. Jean-Pierre Helpap is in 12th place with 13th for Mike Bell, who'll be very happy. Both Cosmo cars starting within the point. 14th for Jack Mayer with 15th for Mikhail Twomala. 16th for Fabian Rude. And 17th for Antonio Hreljanovich. 18th for Adam Oscar. 19th for Stefan McCready. Patrick Krause in 20th. with 21st for Gert de Vries. Matthew Marcard starting in 22nd, with 23rd for Johan Lindberg, after a very disappointing race the first time around. 24th for Bruno Sosa Ferreira, with 25th for Mike Fint. 26th for Dowie Tapper, and 27th for Kumar. Well, I think that, well, it's still a massive grid. We're missing one driver, and that's Daniel Brewer, who has decided against racing in the second race, apparently. We're not entirely sure of the reasoning, but there must be some kind of a reason. And anyone you think is going to win this race?
Well, I'm going to completely ignore that question for the again, for the purpose of not cursing anyone. Also, I've just remembered that it was Johan Lindberg who retired from the last race due to his engine cutting out in the pits, rather than Yuri Kasdorp. I said the wrong name there, and I've been pointed. Quite a few people have pointed that out to me so far, and quite rightly so. But anyway, we're going to wait for the start of this race now. I honestly don't know who's going to win that's why I ignored your question, because it could be any of these top 10 drivers. Honestly, it's so close here. And
I think I'm gonna go for Bastian Peiser. Go completely sideways. Also, what's happening to Kumar? He's kind of okay. No, he is in his grid spot. It looks so far back, especially with the lights. So we're now waiting for the lights to go red once again, as we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 red lights, and here we go. There we go, and off everyone goes, and actually a great start right there from Patrick Gerber, who already is overtaking Batalla. However, he is pushed wide by Batalla and Zupanik already there. Big Batalla on the inside. I see one Scuderia Basilea car going wide. Matej Winnick, who is already in front of Ruolt at this point. However, they're going side by side, and I'm getting quite a bit of lag myself right now.
Yeah, the Scuderia Basilea guys side by side, but it is Josh Downard still leading this race from Yuri Kasdorp, and then it's Jared Batalla, Ben Zupanek, who's had a brilliant start. Patrick Gerber got a good getaway with someone. There's a big pile up at the back, several cars spun.
Tomala and Help App are, I think, the causes of this incident. I'm going to quickly check again.
Matthew Marcard involved as well. There were many drivers who went around in that. There were so many drivers who parked it. Tumala and Help Up came together. They were the main causes of it, and everyone bunched up behind them. There was a spin for Adam Oscar. There was a spin for Matthew Marcard. There was a spin, off the road went Tapper and Kuma. Yeah, many people off. But still, it's, I believe all 27 people are still running. And it's Downard leading as we head down the straight. But look at third, as Zupanek is up the inside of Jared Batalla heading down the straight. He's going to keep that up the inside for the hairpin. In fact, he's got it even before the corner, pulls in front of Batalla, and he's got the place. And Gerber defends from Peister as well. That's 5th for Patrick Gerber. That stays the same. Peister touches him in the rear there. He's on the harder compounded tyres, so obviously thinks the softs are not going to make it the whole way. Although some of these drivers, I think, will be going for stops anyway, so we'll see what happens in terms of the actual strategy. Not that we normally see strategy in race 2, but we might well today. A couple of guys fighting further back, a couple of guys running wide as well.
There are 5 drivers in front who are currently on the softer compound tyres, so they will definitely be pitting in strategically. And now the question is, if the drivers from 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th currently are going to pit in as well, because they're on the hybrid compound tire, and I think they're going to be attempting to stretch it, but is that going to be the quicker strategy? I do wonder which strategy is going to win this race, because it looks like the drivers don't know.
Of course, the difficulty with that is that if they go on the harder compound and then still have to pit because of the tyre wear, there's a high chance that that's going to end up making their race slower than the race of the people on the softer compound, as Gerber gets over the grass there. Although the leading driver on the harder compounded tyre is actually Bastian Peister in 6th. The top 5, as you said, are all on the softer compounded tyre here. And, we'll watch the battle for the lead as if it's properly the battle for the lead for now, because we simply don't know. It's Kasdorp slipstreaming Josh Downard as we head down the penultimate straight. Kasdorp is having a look to either side of Josh Downard's car. He locks up trying to avoid down. His car goes wide and over the grass, and it was very briefly a green stripes 1-2. But Kastorp gets it back again somehow around the outside of Zupanek and keeps it in second. I'm very surprised about that. It looks as if it's losing it altogether. But that was very, very close. And interestingly, the leading Scuderia Basilia car is actually Stefan Ruhl. So Ruhl is ahead of his teammate Maciej Winnick.
Very surprising, but interesting enough, the fastest lap of the race so far goes to Ben Zupanek on the Suffolk compound tires in the green stripe car. And I think green stripes at the moment can take so many screenshots of their cars being 1 and 3, and hopefully 1 and 2 at some point if Zupanek can overtake Yuri Kastorp. And this is one of the dream starts to any kind of race for green stripe, who are going to probably be absolutely just loving this exact situation, because after what happened last season and after being so far down in Super League, for them to lead a race and being 1-3, even though this is a reverse grid race, this is still incredible for the Green Stripes team.
Well, of course, to lead the reverse grid, you have to have finished in the top couple of cars, the top, well, in this case, the top 10, to even be in the reverse grid draw, and both of these drivers were. So good race one from them.
Yuri Kastorp goes to the outside, going for the hairpin on the long straight, and he's done it. I think he's going to be very close. There's contact between the two, and now Kastorp goes to the outside, and now he has the inside line into the final corner, and he is trying it. He is outbraking himself, though. He goes wide. He hits the AstroTurf, and he is going to be behind. Now, Downward, I think, is going to have DRS, and he's going to be already faster. And now Zupanek may have a look into the first corner. Not quite. This is going to be very dangerous, and they're very close, but no positions changed. A bit too aggressive from Kastorp, coming into the final corner, outbrake himself, and not quite able to capitalize on that overtake. As he goes a bit sideways, and now Zupanek may have a go. He's so very close, and he's going to go to the outside and moves to the inside. He's going to break late, and there's nearly touch between the green stripes. However, Kastorp runs wide. He cannot get traction on the outside, and now Ben Zupanek is in second place with the green stripes, currently 1-2 in the second race, in the fourth race of this season. What an amazing fourth race for this team once they got relegated, and what a great story so far.
Kastorp didn't see him. He completely turned across there. They locked wheels, and you have to remember that although this is an amazing battle, they are eating each other's tires. Kastorp locks up and loses a lot of time. Look at Batalla. He's going to have a brilliant run on Kastorp as they head down the back straight. Although, is this effectively for the position that it says it's for? Here they come down the back straight. I don't think, well, they will have the DRS now. It's lap 4, so let's watch the DRS flaps open. There they go as we head down the back straight. Also look at Peisler going defensive in the background, as well as Stefan Ruhl has an attack at him. Kastorp touches the rear end of Ben Zupanek for second, and Peisler is under attack from Ruhl, who goes around the outside. We saw this working for Ruhl in race 1, just braking later and going around the outside. I think that was on Peisler then as well, and he gets it. So Ruhl up into 5th place with a great move, and he is ahead of Bastian Peisler, darts across the track to break the toe, and oh dear, well, it looks as if there were people going off, but it was a lag spike, and Zupanek, Kastorp and Batalla still 2nd, 3rd and 4th.
Yes, also there was a bit of a battle going on between Winnick, Peisler and Ruhl. Peisler only just able to hold onto that 6th place now from Maciej Winnick, who's attacking him with all his might. But the only reason why he was able to hold on was the DRS and a bit of slipstream from Stefan Ruhl. And this is a massive, massive battle for 6th place. Maciej Winnick massively fast, as we've seen in the first race. But he is struggling to overtake Peisler at the moment. And seemingly, it's not that easy this race for Scuderia Basilia drivers to overtake. However, they are also on the harder compound. And now Bastian is also on the harder compound. So I don't think they're going to be quite able to catch up to the leaders, to be honest. The top 4 currently on the softer compound.
There's been a very embarrassing retirement for Matti Markard as he got over the curb on the exit of the final corner, lost control of the car, and then in trying to do a spin turn to get the car back round again, he's lost the engine. So Marquard out in a very unfortunate way for the second race in a row. And now Peisler going defensive from Winnick. This is a replay of last lap, but with the other Scuderia Basilia car, who's put himself in exactly the same position. And it looks as if he's going to pull exactly the same move. He's going to have the inside for the next corner, but Peisler moves across exactly what he needs to do. Very good defence from Bastian Peisler. He's learned from last lap, and Peisler keeps the place. So, of course, the move last lap, of course, might well have been effectively the move for the lead. It depends on whether the soft tyre can last the whole race or not. I don't think it will, but that might well have been effectively the move for the lead. And this is effectively the battle for second. Although the word is possibly, because even if the soft tyres pit, we don't know whether the hard tyres can do the entire race. In which case, these drivers would be severely hampered.
Ben Zupanek in with the fastest lap of the race of anybody this race. Yuri Kastorp not being far off, only 3/10 off his lap. And it looks like Ben Zupanek is going to close down on his teammate. Now the question is there going to be team orders? Because Benz is much, much faster than Josh. There's nearly a second between the two drivers in lap time. So at this point, do you think that it may be worth to let Zupanek go and let Downard hold off Kastorp for as long as he can? But I would like to see some battle between the two. But at this point, I think they're going to have to save their tires and do all they can to make these tires last for the 10 laps that is going to be needed for these tires to be able to manage 2 stints on the softer competitive tire.
Well, looking at it from a team's point of view, I'd actually keep Downard ahead of Zupanek unless they are expecting a pit stop, which they might well be. If they're expecting a pit stop, then they're going to end up behind the guys on the hard tyres anyway. But if they think they're still going to be leading this race effectively, then if they keep Zupanek behind Downard, Zupanek can fend off the cars behind. We saw this working very well yesterday in the Formula Challenge race. And hopefully for Green Stripes, if they do that, they can keep possibly a 1-2 in this race. It would be a difficult task, but it would be a fairy tale finish if that was the case. But of course, again, this is all down to strategy, as Mayer goes defensive from Quint for 11. It's a difficult one, and honestly, I can't answer it. But Zupanek is going on the attack now. Look at that! There's no team orders between these two, are there? They bang wheels.
No, that was very, very dangerous. That was very much not a move you'd see from teammates who are doing team orders. Downward on the defensive, going through the corner, side by side from the Green Stripes. This is some great material. Another contact between the front wing of Zupanek and rear end of Downard. I think this is definitely a fight for the lead. And these guys are doing everything they can to go into the lead as Ben Zupanek goes sideways, cannot hold on to the brake. And this is allowing Stefan Ruhl to catch up to them. And now Gerard Patala is already under attack from Stefan Ruhl, as the two Green Stripes are also under attack from Yuri Kastorp. As Yuri goes, he does go to the inside of Ben Zupanek for the hairpin, and I think he's going to have it. He's going to be in front for the braking point. So at this point, Josh Downard is going to have an incredibly difficult job to manage Yuri Kastorp behind him. Yuri is very, very fast around here.
No, I really do respect Green Stripes for letting their drivers race. That's brilliant from a spectator's standpoint. From a team standpoint, though, they've really shot themselves in the foot there and lost a 1-2 that they would otherwise have had now. And I have no doubt that if those two had not gone side by side there, they would still be running 1-2. But of course, with that battle, they allowed Kastorp to get right on them and past them. And that was the effect of letting the two drivers race. But still brilliant from a spectator standpoint. And it's still Josh Downard leading this race from Yuri Kastorp, Ben Zupanek, Gerard Batalla, Stefan Ruhl, Maciej Winnick, Bastian Peisler, Roy Schroep, Osvaldo Angeloni, and Mark Fuller to make out the top 10.
Yes, amazing stuff to watch, and amazing stuff for screenshots later on with the two Green Stripes leading and going side by side for a lead. But it definitely did not give them make them any favors in terms of actually trying to win this race. But these two drivers are definitely going fully at it, and are still trying to do their best. And surprisingly enough, actually Downard is running away from Kastorp a little bit now. It looks like Kastorp is going to have a very difficult job to try and catch up and overtake Downard now. But now Zupanik is going to try and do the exact same thing to Castor, but he did last lap. But I don't think it's quite close enough.
Well, here they come down the straight. Let's watch for who's slipstreaming who. Watch Ruel. Ruel going to the outside of Gerard Batalla for 4th position. Gets the switchback. That's a good switchback. Gets the run out of the corner. And Ruel trying to pick off one of these soft tyre runners here. But they get very close through the final corner. Ruel gets forced wide by Batalla there. Defenseful driving from Batalla. But it was very, very close. And Ruel is going to be affected by that, I'm sure. He's ahead of his teammate Winnick still, but these two Scuderia Basilia cars are hoping that the front of the order still needs to pit. We have had a pit stop already from Stefan McCready, so obviously McCready thinks that pitting is the better option here. And there are a couple more guys in the pits actually, so I really am expecting pits from these drivers. Who's in the pits now? Krelenovic and Tuamala. So yeah, I do think that we will be seeing all drivers pitting. Gerrit de Vries has had an off at turn 1. That was where he crashed out last time. He's had a spin. He's actually touched the back of Mike Bell's car. Bell had a good save. De Vries went for a full 360 spin and got going again. They are all running outside of the points there. And
also we had Matching Winner gaining another position on Bastian Peisler, who's now currently in 6th place. So that so now we have 5th and 6th place for Scuderia Basilia, our race winners from race 1. However, what's also very interesting is Ben Zupanik going side by side nearly already out of the corner onto the back straight with Yuri Castro very much on the back end. Yuri just barely having DRS of his own, but Ben's just being able to get that little bit of slipstream. And now Ben's back into 2nd place. Green Stripes back into 1-2 position as Stefan Ruold goes on the inside and gets the place from Batalla. Now Stefan Ruold gets up to 4th place with 6th place for Marcin Winnick. Being very close as Yuri Kastrov comes in.
As does our race leader, Josh Downard. So it is going to be that the soft tyre drivers do have to pit here. Zupanek stays out for now. They don't want to double stack the Green Stripes cars. But does that mean that the hard tyre runners are also going to pit? We saw, I think, Osvaldo Angeloni doing 20 laps on the tyres. This race is 19, so you could theoretically do it. But when they're pushing this hard, are they going to? Or will it be that they have to stop and go to the end on soft tyres, which could really affect their race? So Zupanek leads the race for now, but he's going to have to stop. Ruel is 2nd. Will he have to stop?
Oh, interesting. Yuri Kastrov went onto the hards while Josh Downard went onto the soft tire. So Josh Downard must be set up quite aggressively on the cooling because he's already smoking, so his water temperatures must be quite high, and he is overheating in some straights, so he's going to have to watch that engine. Hopefully it's not going to blow up, but it does not look healthy.
You know why I think some of the drivers are going on to hard tyres now?
To push that to the end?
Instinct. Oh, no,
possibly.
I think that the only reason they're going on hard tyres now is because they're used to swapping tyres at their first pit stop. There is no strategical gain to that. They are going to easily be able to make it to the end from here, and all they are doing is going from their instinct of always swapping tyres at their first pit stop, and it is a mistake.
So we have Ben Zupanek coming in for the pits, current leader, and now...
And Josh Downard is smoking! Josh Downard!
Yes, he's overheating. He's overheating. As I said, he's overheating at the moment. It looks like his water temperatures are slightly high on his straights. It looks like his cooling wasn't quite good enough for this race, for that pit stop that he planned, because it looked fine beforehand, and now it just looks like that engine just needs to cool down a little bit. It doesn't seem to be able to.
Well, I tell you what, I thought that was a full-blown engine failure, but anyway, it isn't, and into the pits has come Ben Zupanek. So Zupanek has pitted as Downard goes to the inside of Limburg and gets the place, and that means that our Scuderia Basilia cars are going for another 1-2. Ruel leads from Winnick, from Peisler, Angeloni, and Schroten. However, we still have the question of whether these hard-tired runners are going to have to stop or not. Patrick Krause is still running on the super soft tyres in 7th, as is Josh Downard. So that's the softer tyre compound of the two, and those drivers will still need a stop. Surely, Zupanek is the leading driver who has stopped. he is running in 11th place.
Interesting, very interesting. Actually, Josh Downer is currently in 9th place of the drivers who stopped. And
Oh yeah, never mind.
yes, of course. However, it does look like Yuri Kastorp has, at that point, overtaken Ben Zupanek. Yes, he has. So Ben Zupanek somehow losing time on that one lap he added to it. And but however, he is on the faster compound of tires than Yuri Kastorp is. And now the question is, will the drivers in front have to pit or not? Will they be able to hold on the tires that they're at? Even if there were no, Martin Winnick is in. Martin Winnick is into the pits.
Amazing. So it was probably a mistake to start the race on the harder compounded tires. They were trying to sort of, well, I think they were probably trying to stop it from being a two-stop race. But we've seen that the soft tires can basically last half the race. In one of the chats, hold on, as Tapper is coming under attack from Zupanek there. And in fact, Zupanek, I'll come back to my point later, but Zupanek and Kastorp and Downett, they've all come out ahead of Winnick, rather, and that is proving that it was a mistake to start the race on the harder tyre, and Winnick is now, well, he's caught up behind Johan Lindberg, who has come from the back of the order after retiring from race
Ben
one.
Zupanek goes for a dive on Dowie Tapper, and Dowie does not see Zupanek coming, and to be honest, he shouldn't have, because that was a move from about 10 miles back. Zupanek hits Tapper, and they're both getting away with it without too much loss, and hopefully without too much damage. However, it did look quite scary, and definitely one of those moments where I think Zupanek is getting quite frustrated, but he does not take any suspension damage, which is, I think, a miracle at this point.
So what I was going to say is that I think that, well, it is definitely a mistake to have gone onto the hards. Cameron Brewster in the GPVWC Sim Racing YouTube livestream chat says, I reckon drivers have gone soft to hard because they're worried they'll still struggle to make the end on soft.
Downer, by the way. Kastorp going into the possibly provisional lead as they go side by side.
Pits.
As they have rules in pitting in. Now we both know, that both Scuderia Basilea drivers made a mistake tactically as it appeared, going for the soft combo of tires as Downer now back onto Kastorp, going to the inside of the first corner. I think he can do it. It was a very dangerous move. He had to be very close to the pit lane exit, so if somebody was coming out there, as there's contact between Kastorp and Downer.
And that is effectively for the lead of the race. What Zupanek is going to second. There he goes. That's effectively second, and again, it's a green stripes 1-2. Now, I wasn't expecting that, but it's happened so many times. And Kastorp drops back at that instant. Now watch Winnick going for Tapper. He needs to demote him quickly because Tapper is still yet to pit. Winnick does get him up the inside, but does he keep the place? He still has to run around the outside of Dowie Tapper. But he'll have the inside if he can hold that. Yeah, I believe he's going to get it. He does. Someone's going sideways. There was a big plume of smoke there.
Zupanek going sideways, and he's seemingly struggling through some of these corners. However, this is going to be very important now to be able to make it to the end. And he will have Yuri Kastorp on his back end now, who will be pushing very hard. Last lap from Yuri Kastorp was the fastest lap of the race from anybody, 140.398, which is on a harder combo of tires. Yuri is absolutely smoking these tires. I think he is doing some incredible speed. However, now Ruold goes for the attack on Yuri Kastorp on the back straight. He's going to the outside. We've seen Scuderia Basilea cars being able to do that on the outside of this hairpin, and he's able to do it before the breaking point for the final corner. Stefan Ruold now going to effectively third place as Yuri Kastorp goes into pits. I think he has damage. Incredible.
Well, Bastian Peisler has also pitted. I think this is tactical from Kastorp because he's been running from the start on those tyres. No, he hasn't actually.
Oh,
he pitted, didn't
that was 3 laps.
So that'll be damage from Yuri Kastorp, and that's a big shame. He's going to drop right down the order from that. So it's a drive-through. He's gone straight through, hasn't he? Did he stop?
Oh, no.
I don't think he stopped. I think that was a drive-through. Yes, that would have been for speeding in the pits. I tell you, that would have been a drive-through for not slowing down enough, for putting on the pit limiter too late, or for taking it off too quickly.
Oh my goodness me. Now, this is interesting, and this could be for the race win. I think we may have a surprise winner of this race, because Osvaldo Angelone, currently leading the race on the harder compound tires, he has shown in the first race he can make these tires last for 20 laps.
Are you
Now,
sure he actually did that in race 1? It
yes,
sounded fishy.
yes,
He
I
did.
have. Yes, I have definitely checked. When
Well,
I
if he
was,
can hold that, that would be incredible because he's leading at the moment. Him and Roy Schroten is running behind him. Let's not count out Schroten because Schroten has done exactly the same thing. In fact, behind him as well, Fuller and Kraus, who are side by side, also haven't stopped yet. And well, Kraus is still on the super soft, which is incredible. But
as Road goes past Zupanek, by the way, another attack into the second to last corner, into the hairpin, and now Zupanek is going to try to maybe have a run on Rule, but Rule going absolutely through it like a hot knife through butter on the soft compound of tires that are a bit newer by a couple laps, and Zupanek was struggling on them for a little while now. I think it could look like Scuderia Basilea 1-2 by the end of this race again.
Fuller and Kraus make contact for third place, and Downard's going to have to run wide for Fuller ahead of him. This is effectively the battle for the lead with Ruel, because watch Ruel having a look at Downard in all of this, and if Fuller holds up Downard enough, oh look at Zupanek up the inside of Ruel again. This is an absolutely incredible dogfight between the two Green Stripes cars, the two Scuderia Brasilia cars, and everyone else who wants to get involved. Look at that! And he's through. So Zupanek up into second, effectively sixth on the road. But and now he dives. Zupanek dives on Fuller, clonks wheels with him, and demoots him. Although of course will this be second effectively? Because of course you can't count out the fact that Schroten and Angeloni ahead haven't pitted yet, and they might go to the end. That would be the most incredible win I have ever seen in Super League, in Supercup, possibly from Angeloni if he can hold it, because to make the tires last and to win the race that way, I think is more impressive than doing it on flat out pace. Watch the two Scuderia Brasilia cars. Winnick is ahead of Ruel.
Now, interestingly enough, I'm checking the pace of Osvaldo Angelone, and he is not losing pace. He's keeping the pace. His pace is not the greatest out of anybody on the track, but it's very consistent. It's within about 0.4, 0.5 of a second at all times. And at the moment, he's doing some of his better laps this race. This is looking very good for the Cosmo driver for a possible even win of this race. If he can keep his tires running for just another 20% of this race, essentially, he may be the winner of this race purely based on strategy alone.
And look at Patrick Kraus. He has lasted 16 laps on the softer compounded tyre. That is unbelievable. And if he can make it to the end, that would be absolutely, well, it was silly in terms of the strategy, but an absolutely amazing drive after that. He's just been passed by Ben Zupanek, who goes to fourth on the road. But what a drive from Patrick Kraus so far. And look at the two Scuderia Brasilia cars. Winnick goes up alongside him on the inside. He gets through. Ruel is going to pop through in exactly the same move. Kraus not defending too hard. He knows that he has to conserve these tyres and not push them at all to make it to the end. And that's what he's doing. His car will probably be feeling horrible now.
It will. Oh my goodness me. Now Ben Zupanek is definitely going to be under heavy attack from the two drivers now. He does have a gap, and it is more than a DRS zone. Requires you to get that DRS on the straight. However, I don't think that's going to matter too much. Martin Winnick is on a faster tire, is on a newer tire, that is. And I think at this point, it's just a matter of time before Ben Zupanek has to deal with the outright massacre coming from those two Scuderia Basilea cars. They are coming for him and coming like a train.
An absolute train, and a very green one. Downard in front, Zupanek in second. Well, no, in fourth on the road. Of course, we don't know whether Schroten or Angeloni can make it to the finish. They might well be able to. And then it's Winnick and Ruel behind them. Interestingly, both of them on the harder compounded tyres, while both of the Green Stripes cars on the softer compounded tyres. And that, I think, is what's done it for the Green Stripes cars and what has kept them ahead of the Scuderia Brasilia ones. And to be honest, that is a very good strategy from the two, making those softer tyres last. But look at Osvaldo Angeloni and Roy Schroeder go at the front of this field.
I honestly think that no matter what happens now, Green Stripes is going to be so happy with this race. This is an amazing running from both their drivers to be able to keep this amazing position. And I mean, at the moment, it looks like Osvaldo Angeloni and Roy Schroeder are going to try and get away with it. But I mean, what a great performance, and actually outsmarting a team such as Scuderia Basilea, who have been so fast this weekend, so fast this season so far. And I mean, at the moment, it's just an outright dogfight for that fourth place currently, as matching when it goes through, and it looks like Ben Zupanek will not have any answer for it. And now Stefan Ruold is going to be trying to do the same.
Retirement at the back. Patrick Gerber has spun and lost the engine and been tapped by Kacper. But as you say, Winnick up into 4th position, Zupanek down into 5th now. And, well, I really am starting to think that is the effective position, which I really didn't think earlier. Watch Lindbergh attacking Fuller as well. That's a battle that looks to be about to change for 9th position. Indeed it does. Fuller gets well out of the way there as Lindbergh dives through. No real defence put up. That was for 9th.
Now it looks like Osvaldo is still keeping his pace. He's still doing a lap within 1/10 of a second of his best lap this race. So I think Angeloni is going for the win of this race. However, Roy Schroeder may have trouble because he is now about 2 seconds, at the very least 2 seconds a lap slower than his fastest lap. And if this continues, and if this deteriorates anymore, we may be looking at Roy Schroeder not quite being able to manage it, even with the current 6 seconds in front of Josh Downard.
Unbelievable race we are seeing now. I've never seen such a racer's strategy in race 2 before. And of course, because there is no mandatory pit stop, these two out front, by not pitting, have basically just they've just got themselves that track position. They've just got themselves this lead in this 2nd place, and everyone else has been a bit chicken here really, and kind of not gone for it. But anyway, Winnick looks to the outside of Downard for 3rd. That didn't work, although one that did work was Ruhl on Zupanek for 5th rather. Ruhl gets 5th ahead of Zupanek, who drops to 6th. Still, whoa, Zupanek has a big kick. Still, the Green Stripes cars both there, the Scuderia Brasilia cars both there, as we are now on the final lap of the race. And neither of the leading 2 guys pitted. That's incredible. They are going to last this entire race on 1 set of tyres. No one else did that. The other guys on hard tyres even pitted before the 50% mark, basically. Oh, well, some of them lasted slightly over, but they all lasted until about that point. These guys are going to go the entire distance. Winnick looks to the outside of Downard. This is the 3rd on the final lap of the race. He's going to try to go around the outside. He gets forced wide. Ruhl goes through. So, the Scuderia Brasilia cars swap places. Those two battling for the championship, of course. Ruhl is our championship leader and gets ahead of his rival and teammate Maciej Winnick. But look at Osvaldo Angeloni still leading this race somehow on the final lap in the Cosmos Seeker Japan car. Josh Anderson is probably going to have an absolute ball when he sees Osvaldo Angeloni crossing the line in 1st position. Josh Downard still defending from Stefan Ruhl as they head out onto the straight for the final time. Angeloni is already on it. Schroeder is on it now. I don't know where to look. Downard and Ruhl are going to be absolutely side by side by the end of this straight, I'm sure. Here they come. And now Osvaldo Angeloni is coming around the final corner of this race. An incredible drive. And Angeloni is going to win the race on pure tyre saving. Brilliant, brilliant drive. Fantastic to win the race. Brilliant recovery from the disappointment of race 1. Roy Schroeder is 2nd. And Ruhl has got 3rd. Stefan Ruhl 3rd. 4th is Josh Downard. 5th is Maciej Winnick. Then it's Brent Zupanek and Bastian Peisler. Brilliant.
That was a fantastic race. And I have to say that we still have Bastian Peisler in 7th, 8th for Patrick Kraus, 9th for Jack Mayer, who did quite well, to be honest, in the end. Johan Lindbergh did a fantastic recovery drive from the very back end after his issues in the first race. Mac Fint in 11th, 12th for Gerard Batalla, 13th for Mark Fuller, 14th for Yuri Kastrup, and finally the 1 point scorer of Bruno Sousa Ferreira, who had that problem of running out of fuel in the first race, with Kumar in 16th, Mike Bell in 17th, 18th for Jean-Pierre Helpap, 19th for Fabian Rude, 20th for Mikael Tomala, 21st for Dawi Tapper, 22nd for Antonio Hruljanovic, 23rd for Adam Oscar, 24th for Gerrit de Vries, with a fairly disappointing race for de Vries. And our retirements for this race were Patrick Gerber, Stefan McCready, and Matthew Marquardt. What an amazing race, and what an amazing race it was from Osvaldo Angelone, our race winner, and the first win of the season for the Cosmo team. And I have to say, fantastic stuff from all of the drivers in the top 5 especially. What an amazing race from all of them.
Absolutely amazing. I must say, Angeloni and Schroten both they were the drivers of the day there. Absolutely. Even if they weren't the quickest, you don't need to be, because they absolutely managed their tyres better than anyone else ever could, and brought the car home at the top of the order, and that is what matters. Just utterly incredible. I'm going to bring in Roy Schroten straight away to this interview, because I want to congratulate our leading drivers for making it to the end on just one set of tyres. Roy Schroten, that was incredible.
It was so crazy to finish the race and to make it. I was just, when I saw everybody pitting, I saw some people on the super soft tires, so I expected them to pit, but then suddenly everybody started to pit, and I was in second there behind that other guy. And I was just hoping that my tires would survive, and I was constantly looking at the gaps behind me to see if they would catch me. And the last few laps, my tires were so ruined, but I just managed to keep it on the track, take it easy, and bring her home in second. It's amazing.
Well, it certainly was an amazing drive. How did your race 1 go though? It's very easy to go and shout about how incredible that tyre saving in race 2 was, but talk us through race 1 for a start.
Well, race 1 was very good for me too, apart from the start where I had some lag. Some people seem to have some issues with it. I had some settings in the wrong place, so I meant to fix that for race 2. But for race 1, I had some lag, and suddenly Johan's car bounced back for me 5 meters or something like that. And he came a lot closer, and I couldn't avoid him, but we still both managed to continue the race. I don't know if he had any damage. If he did, I'm sorry. And well, after that, I had a pretty uneventful race. I had some nice battles in the ending stages, but I managed to keep it in front and finish P4. P4 and P2, I'm very happy about it, because the car didn't feel that well, and I hope to improve it with my teammates for the next race.
Right. No, that is absolutely fantastic. And to be honest, it's yeah. Sorry, I've just been looking at it, but as well, yeah, fantastic race anyway. From but especially in the second time around, but the first time, it happens, and it's a good race anyway. Sorry, I'm a little bit off. But anyway, yeah, so again, congrats for the second place. Fantastic stuff. And Josh Downer is also with us. And to be honest, that was some incredible driving from you, Josh. And especially starting from the pole in the second race. I don't think you quite expected to keep to that pole lead and effective lead for as long as you did.
No, I really didn't. Race 1 didn't go too well, and I was just completely off the pace. I qualified P15, so I didn't have the pace there either. So I was expecting to just be defending the entire race, holding back loads of people. But somehow I actually had decent pace, still holding back Bent and Maciej and Stefan as well, which made some really fun battling. And yeah, it was just annoying that obviously I don't get how they managed to not stop. I definitely wouldn't have made it to the end if I had tried that. So it was a great strategy from them. and it was just annoying to lose the podium at the end with Stefan getting me the second to last corner. So
Yes,
it was a very good race.
it looked fantastic and looked like good fun. And what we've also realized when we watched that second race was that there didn't seem to be any kind of team wars between yourself and your teammate there, or between Zupanek, were there?
No, that wasn't. It got a bit worrying at some point, but yeah, luckily we were able to just realize that we're on the same team. We don't want to take each other out, obviously, and we kept it clean. There was one touch, I think, between us going into a corner, but apart from that, it was pretty good.
All right. Well, no, again, congratulations. And just any words on the first race quickly?
It was just, I don't know, it was annoying. I think I could have got a P7, but on my final pit stop, I sped into the pits. Had to do a drive through, and that was annoying, and that put me back into P10. But then that put me on pole, so can't complain.
Yeah, no, you can't really complain once you get a pole back from that anyway. So congratulations for a great result for both of your cars, actually, and thanks for coming along. And I'll just let's just try and keep this a little bit concise because we do have quite a few interviewees. So Maciej Młynek, you're a race winner from race 1, and then second race was quite a bit tougher by the looks of it.
Yeah, it was always going to be tougher when starting from lower position. And I had some tough time with Bastian only, but it was only because of me. He didn't do nothing wrong. I once broke too much and locked my rears and went into his side. Fortunately, he didn't suffer any serious damage. But when I managed to pass him, I had some nice fun trying to catch top 5 at the time. And at the end, fighting with Pence and Josh, I think it wasn't the best to push me slightly off the track, but yeah, nothing wrong happened at all. I attacked Josh into the second to last corner just to give Stefan some more chances to hold the P3 and maybe myself getting some more, maybe P4, but it unfortunately didn't happen.
Yeah, no, well, unfortunately for yourself, but it was a great battle anyway. It was four very green cars fighting for that one spot on the podium. Just a quick question: were you surprised by the two top drivers not pitting in?
I was slightly surprised, but me and Stefan knew that um, that they had to save tires. They had to save much tires because when we were practicing, we had like 4 to 5% per lap, and it wasn't enough to do like 19 laps for us. But they managed to save tire better than we can, and they came out of with good results, both Roy and Osvaldo.
Mm. Yeah, well, I must say, big congratulations to you and your team as well. For I think you must have come out of that race with the top result for the points. And speaking of your teammate Stefan Vrult, any comments on those two races?
Hey guys, yeah, it was pretty fun. I had to start from P5, of course, because of the grid penalty. Um, but you know, to finish second behind my teammate, who got a well-deserved win, was just great. Maximized points, I think. And then race 2 was quite fun. Lots of fun fights. I think all the guys around us, just respect for each other, and we just fought really hard. But was great fun. And yeah, I got the podium in the end. So last corner, second to last corner. This great feeling to get it on the second to last corner.
Yeah, actually, just a quick question to both of you and Maciej. You two seem to really like to overtake on the outside of the second to last corner. Is there any secret to this?
Maciej, you want to go first?
I was just trying to get any possible opportunity, because if someone blocks inside and it's not possible to overtake him on the inside, we can try go outside and see if we can stick it or not. If we can stick, then it looks awesome. If not, then yeah, next try.
Yeah, I guess the same for me. Everyone seems to be blocking the inside, so then you have to go around the outside. And I guess with the last stint with the red tires, we had good grip there, so we could.
Mm.
Can I
Yeah.
step in quickly and just ask that in race 2, we saw that you stopped, of course, and eventually the leading 2 didn't. But you then went on to the harder compounded tire, which I really wasn't expecting. Was that kind of planned beforehand, or did you just sort of do it at the time for safety? Like you weren't sure that the soft tires could make it to the end from there?
Stefan, go first.
You mean the race 2?
Yeah, race 2. So you pitted for the harder compounded tire about half the way through.
No, actually, I pitted for the softer, but I started on the harder tire there.
Same as me.
Yeah, because we felt like we couldn't make it on 2 times soft tires.
Well, looking at the stream, you were on the harder tire towards the end of the race.
No. No. I think they did start on the harder and then the softer, and I think they'll know. Yeah, but yeah, no. Thanks again, guys, and great racing from you two. Anyway.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm being a numpty. I'm looking at it completely wrong. Never mind. Yeah, problem solved. Yeah, my fault. Carry on.
Yeah, so again, thank you for your time, you two, and again, congrats for the great results for the team. And now, next on, I'm gonna also go for, I think, Jack Mayer, since he's been waiting here for quite a while now. Jack, so how were your 2 races? I think second race you finished in a not too bad of a place, have you?
Well, both of them were both recovery drives. Like race 1, starting from the back. Race 2 was starting from the back because of the back of grids, and fighting my way up into the points, which I think both races could have been an easy top 5 on pace. But I can't remember who it was, but with the lag issue, just lagged backwards, and both races, same person hit me and basically destroyed my race. And it's one of those pains that you can't blame anyone.
Yeah, no, that's very unlucky from your perspective anyway, and we've seen that happen to a couple drivers this time around. Unluckily, so some flying into walls. I think actually Osvaldo Angelone was one of them in first race. Actually got hit by something anyway. But yeah, so. How do you generally feel about your drives? Do you think that so you said you would think you would be near the top 5. Were you very happy with your drives, apart from the lags, from the people lagging into yourself?
Yeah, the overall pace, like my performance today, was not really expected. I mean, even before Australia, I was just looking for points. But after Australia, and I was fighting for top 6, then I thought maybe it was just a fluke. And then we come to China, and the pace is still there to fight for top 5s. And maybe in the future, when I get a race without any bad luck, I might be able to go for top 5 podiums and maybe a win. But until then, I think the performance I had today was a lot better than the results show.
Okay. Well, that's great to hear, and hopefully you're going to see you're definitely going to see a bit more luck in the coming round. The season is very long, and there's a lot of races in front of you. So best of luck to yourself.
Thank you.
And happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yes, happy belated birthday for sure. And now Joshua Anderson is going to step in here as a team owner of the winner of the second round. And now, was that a surprise for you?
Well, that's what I say. It was a surprise after his first race win, and it's a surprise after the second. But honestly, Osvaldo is such a good driver. He really is. And I don't think he's going to be a reserve driver for long if he keeps this up. Rather than being oh, well, he's been so impressive. It's just been absolutely brilliant this season. The 2 races he's done so far, and well, I'm staggered really that we'd not won a single. We'd only ever won 1 Formula Challenger race. Now we come to Supercup, we got 2.
No, it looks like a very good result anyway. And again, it looked like he was the only driver not to lose any pace by the end of the race on that hard compound of tires. It was something incredible. I just looked at him, and he was slower by a second, I think, than the fastest lap of other drivers. But that didn't really matter, considering he made the tires work for the entire stint in an incredibly consistent fashion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's just so good on the tires, and he knows his strategy as well. He's an asset to have to the team. He really has, and he's done a brilliant job in these first 4 races that he's done. And well, let's see what else he can do, I guess.
Absolutely. And any comments about the first race as well from your team's perspective?
Well, it could have been better, I guess, but onwards and upwards, because dwelling on the past isn't going to help anything. So yeah, we got 2 race wins and we're happy.
Well, that's great to hear. Well, and I think that will conclude our interviews. So, any kind of closing thoughts, Josh?
Me.
Yes, you.
I always get confused when there's 2 Josses in the call. It's that sort of thing. But anyway, yeah, that was the most interesting GPVWC Super Cup race I've ever seen. I've never seen such a game of chicken, really, in a race 2, especially with, of course, some drivers. Well, every driver knew whether they were going to pit or not before the race, but there were some drivers who looked as if they were going to go for it and then didn't, and I expect that was a last minute decision. And there was all sorts of unexpected twists, and well, it was just highly unpredictable right to the finish. Great driving from the drivers right at the front of the field. Good to see Green Stripes and Scuderia Basilia up there having a good old fight. Scuderia Basilia doing very well in race 1 as well. And yeah, that pretty much sums the whole thing up. It was just a thoroughly enjoyable afternoon of racing.
I have to agree with you. It was fantastic, and the amount of battles we've had. There were some contacts, and I think into some of them we're gonna have to. The DC will have to look into. However, most of the battles were very harsh, but were very clean in many ways. So hopefully, we're going to see more of this season, more of pretty clean races, and we've had very little retirements in the second race. I just hope that we're gonna sort out the lag spike issues we seem to be having this time around. That's just my kind of 2 cents. And with that, I think we're gonna be having to end this live stream of this race. So a couple things that I'd like to mention is we are, of course, coming back live tomorrow with the Super League series, our top series, of course, here. And it is going to be fascinating. The season there is just as fascinating as it is in the Super Cup. So please tune in tomorrow at the same time. Hopefully this time without the issues we've been having with the video for the beginning half of the first race. And also next week we're going to have some World GT starting. That's going to be an incredible series with 20 teams. Yes, 40 drivers. We actually, apparently, we had to turn down drivers, and that is going to be happening sometime next week. We also will be having, and now this is more on the SimNews side of things. We will be having the Scrutineer, also for of course, for the Super League happening in about 30 minutes on this or less on the SimNews channel. So please tune in for that if you're interested in the development of the cars in Super League. Very fascinating show led by Mike Pittman. And also, if you wish to know more about Super Cup and Super League, SimNews also does the Super Cup and the Super League show. And that's usually posted before the next race happens. So please feel free to hop in and check that out at any point. It is fascinating, and I think that's it. So, just any kind of closing thoughts?
Well, it was very good. So next time is Baku. It's going to be a very interesting one. A lot of carnage, I'm sure. Hopefully not too much, but let's face it, there's going to be a good deal, and it'll certainly be worth tuning in for whatever happens. So I will see you then, certainly.
So please tune in for the race tomorrow, and tune in with us in 2 weeks' time for Baku if you're interested in Super Cup. And that will be it from us. I was Kacper with me, Joshua Jones, and I wish you good night.